It is 5 o'clock on the dot this Tuesday morning. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories, and welcome to what will be the nicest day of the week as far as weather is concerned. Yesterday wasn't bad temperature-wise. It was just all that wind. Well, today we've got those temperatures without the wind. Then changes come the rest of the week. Full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. President Biden's heading out today. He's going to put Republicans on defense.
He claims Republicans will target the Affordable Care Act, Medicare, and Medicaid in order to balance the federal budget. And President Biden says he and Democrats will stop them. Mr. Biden will deliver that warning in Virginia Beach, Virginia, even though Republicans haven't yet unveiled their budget plans. Some Republicans are still saying that they'll need to either eventually cut Social Security as well or raise the retirement age in order to get it.
Republicans are warning that money for Social Security will run out by 2034 unless there are changes to the funding mechanisms. And before raising the debt ceiling, Republicans are trying to negotiate a deal to cut spending, but Biden and Democrat leaders refuse to negotiate so far. The Supreme Court hears two challenges to President Biden's student loan forgiveness plan today. Announced last August, it would cancel $10,000 in federal student loan debt for anyone making under $125,000 a year or households with less than $250,000 in income per year. More than 26 million Americans have applied for student debt relief. Those hearings start this morning at 9. Increasing pressure on President Biden and his top generals to change their minds and send Ukraine American fighter jets, according to a Ukrainian military official.
He says he's not criticizing President Biden.
You don't bite the hand that gives you HIMARSes, that gives you tanks, and then hopefully will give you F-16s.
U.S. generals say Ukraine needs those more than planes. Ukrainian defense advisor Yuri Sak.
We understand that they require training.
And
the fighting during the past weeks has intensified.
He says he's confident Ukraine will get the fighter jets.
Right now in Tennessee, the only female officer fired in the Laverne police sex scandal has filed a federal civil rights lawsuit against the department and her former co-workers. The lawsuit filed yesterday alleges Megan Hall was a victim of sexual harassment while being groomed for sexual exploitation. Her lawyers say since the story broke worldwide, Hall has been subjected to public ridicule, and negative publicity has thwarted her attempts to regain employment. Market Numbers Report brought to you by Beacon Capital Management, beaconcm.com. Here's Daria Albinger.
Stocks rallied to start the week. The Dow closed up 72 points. It had been up more than 300 at the session high. The Nasdaq also added 72 and the S&P rose 12. The market's clawing back some of the worst losses since early December. A survey of business economists says the U.S. may still be headed into a recession, but it will be later than they've thought. And it might not be as painful as they'd earlier predicted. The National Association for Business Economics thinks it'll happen late this year or early next year. The Supreme Court says it'll take up a Republican-led challenge to the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau in a case which could threaten how the Consumer Watchdog Agency functions. The case won't be heard before October, though, when the court's next term begins. So how does a Big Mac and a glazed donut sound? Mickey D's is expanding a test of selling Krispy Kreme donuts to 150 restaurants in Kentucky.
All right, futures are pointing up ahead of the opening bell on Wall Street. Dow futures up 37, S&P 3, NASDAQ up 7. That's the latest news, traffic, and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WDN News.
Hey everybody, I'm Paul Winkler. The financial world can be full of landmines for investors. On the one hand, investment firms and the financial community will often overcomplicate the financial planning process to confuse investors. As one guy who used to work a big investment firm once told me, if an investor thinks that they're over their head, they'll blindly trust you. And it's easier to sell to them. I'm glad I'm away from that. On the other hand, many people oversimplify investing to the detriment of investors. Just having a little knowledge can be really dangerous. The idea there is the same. It's just a different way of selling things. At Paul Winkler Inc., we like working alongside our clients with an education guidance approach. I believe that there's confidence that comes with knowing what you're doing and why. We abide by the very highest level of fiduciary care, and we use the most sophisticated financial planning tools out there. And every one of our offices is run by a degreed planner with over 20 years experience. No kids fresh out of college. If that sounds like a winning formula, Set up a free 15-minute phone call to learn more. Go to paulwinkler.com or call 615-851-1950. You can do this.
Nashville's Morning News with Dan Mandis.
And go, my fellow Americans.
We talk news. Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
507 Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Good morning to you, friends, along with Ken Weaver and Johnny B. Dan Mandis here. And man, there's a lot to talk about. Let's get right to it. By the way, Super Talk TV is up. YouTube, Twitch, Facebook Live, and Twitter. Also, the Super Text line is open as well. Always love hearing from you folks. 615-737-9986. So we do have a lot going on, including the latest on the Chinese lab leak theories. That is where we will begin. You know, it is amazing to me that there is still media out there that is dismissing the whole Chinese lab leak theory. Now, we told you yesterday about how the Department of Energy believes with low confidence that COVID escaped from that Wuhan lab. Now, Republicans reacted. A lot of Republicans, a lot of people, well, just like me and like a lot of you, we felt vindicated. Because here was the Department of Energy, along with the FBI, let's not forget about that, and they've been saying, oh yeah, the possibility of this thing coming from a Chinese lab, that whole conspiracy theory could actually be true. And so, yeah, you're darn right, the Republicans felt vindicated. Democrats, by and large, not having a lot to say about this because I believe that they realize that they're part of the problem along with the media. The media reported the story, but one of two things happened. Either they reported the story and they didn't really mention their own culpability in admitting that they were wrong to cancel and mock those who knew the truth 2 years ago. And also, by the way, China has their own reaction, and they're not happy. This is Fox News and Peter Doocy reading China's reaction.
Certain parties should stop rehashing the lab leak narrative, stop smearing China, and stop politicizing origins tracing. On Capitol Hill, House Republicans say they see this Energy Department conclusion, even though it is billed as one of low confidence, as confirmation of long-held beliefs, including Republican Congressman Michael McCaul, who says now is the time for the entire Biden administration to join the Department of Energy, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and the majority of Americans by publicly concluding what common sense told us at the start, the COVID-19 pandemic originated from a lab leak in Wuhan, China.
I mean, there you go. Here's the thing that we know, because there's a lot of different angles to take on this. Clearly, China is not going to suddenly begin cooperating with the investigations from the World Health Organization. We also know that the World Health Organization itself really has zero interest in knowing what happened. So what happens when this does happen again? Now, remember that earlier this year, the World Health Organization, they shelved phase 2 of their scientific investigation into what happened. You know why they had to shelve phase 2? Because China wouldn't give them any access. Wouldn't give them access to the labs, wouldn't give them access to people to interview, wouldn't give them access to the lab itself. China does everything they can to say, oh, of course we want to know what happened, as long as you don't mention the lab leak theory. This is from Nature.com. Researchers say they are disappointed that the investigation is not going ahead because understanding how the COVID-19 began is important for preventing future outbreaks. But they say without access to China, there's little that the World Health Organization can do to advance the studies. Basically, they say that their hands are tied. Well, what I would like to see the World Health Organization do, and the media, I would love to see them come out and call out China. Instead, one of the words that they used when they talked about the World Health Organization completing phase 1, but not even bothering with phase 2 because of a lack of access to the lab there in China, is they say that the World Health Organization quietly decided that they were going to cancel the investigation. Just basically say, you know what, if we can't have access to China, we don't have access to that Wuhan lab, there is no reason to continue. But they did that quietly. They closed the investigation quietly as opposed to coming out and screaming at the top of their lungs, China is not cooperating. And anytime an entity, by the way, doesn't cooperate, what does that really look like? It makes it look like that entity is guilty as hell. And China looks guilty here. They've always been hostile to even the idea that this may have come from a lab. They won't even accept any report or investigation that even suggests such a thing. So the problem here is twofold. It's China and the World Health Organization. Now, what we do need to do is find out from the Department of Energy what exactly is it that they found and further investigate the lab leak theory and Dr. Anthony Fauci. And you would think that this whole thing would be about preventing the next COVID, preventing the next government overreaction to COVID. You would think that that would be part of the discussion. Apparently not, though. Oh, but there's more. There's a lot more. Why is it that the media really refuses to admit their own culpability in all of this? We'll talk about that and a whole lot more straight ahead. 5:14 on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. By the way, again, Super Talk TV is up and running. YouTube, Twitch, Facebook Live, and Twitter. Super text line 615-737-9986. We will be speaking to Congressman Mark Green at 7:05 about this story and a whole lot more, so you want to stay close. Busy morning ahead. Time to check the roads from the Paul Winkler Investment WTN Traffic Center. Thank you, Jack. 5:16 on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk. Sunny today, a high of 75. Right now, 56 degrees at Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It is interesting, too. Just kind of riffing about the whole Chinese lab leak theory, China, the World Health Organization. Why didn't the Democrats, when they had the House and the Senate and the White House for the last 2 years, why didn't they really want to do a deep dive into what the hell happened with COVID? Why didn't they do what the Republicans in the House of Representatives are doing right now, which is investigating COVID, investigating the origins of COVID? Why didn't the Democrats do that? Which party, I would ask this question, which party cares more about the American people? The party that is investigating China for its biological assault on America and the world? That's the Republican Party. What are the Democrats and Joe Biden doing? Nothing. They didn't do anything for 2 years except call people who were talking about the Chinese lab leak theory. The only thing they could do, they didn't accuse China of diddly squat. They accused people who accused China of this thing as racists. Well, now here we are a couple of years later, and Biden administration, the Department of Energy, they are now saying that it is a possibility that this thing did come from the Chinese lab. Mark Thiessen was on Fox News, a great guy, and love his commentary. Former George W. Bush speechwriter. He also, by the way, writes for the Washington Post. He says that obviously this was not only a lab leak, but there's a lot that needs to be investigated.
It's insane. I mean, most Americans looked at this news and said, well, duh, of course it came from a lab. Right. Every normal person in America has known for years that this came from a lab. I mean, think about this. The coincidence would be involved. It happened in Wuhan, which is the home of the Wuhan Institute of Virology that studies bad coronaviruses, but it didn't come from a lab.
Right. And I love how he said, by the way, did you notice this? I picked up on this. When Thiessen says, most normal people understand that this came from a lab leak in China. Well, he's absolutely right when he says most normal people. Of course, Democrats and the media, I don't know if I would refer to them as normal at this point, quite frankly.
I mean, we know they were doing gain and function research. We know they were doing it at biosafety level 2 instead of biosafety level 4, which was with the spacesuits. We know that 3 people from the Wuhan lab got sick in November 2019 at the start of the pandemic and had to go to the hospital with COVID symptoms. But yeah, it didn't come from a lab.
I mean, right? Somebody please tell me where he's wrong. Now, again, you would think this whole discussion would be about preventing not only this kind of a lab leak again, funding this kind of research again, but there's a question yesterday about whether the Biden administration would be releasing maybe a report on the Department of Energy findings, even if it is a version of the report that is not putting out their classified information, an unclassified version of the report. Karine Jean-Pierre, I know you'll be shocked and surprised and amazed. She was asked the question, and she didn't answer.
Are there any plans for the administration to release an unclassified version of the Energy Department's COVID origin report? And if not, why is the administration choosing to keep that assessment classified?
So again, I'm going to just repeat my National Security Council colleague who said that he don't want to get ahead don't want to confirm a story, so I'm certainly not going to answer that from here. What I can tell you and reiterate from here, as he has said, as the National Security Advisor has said many times on the airwaves yesterday, which is that the president wants to get to the bottom of this because he thinks it's incredibly important to figure out, to get a sense where COVID-19 originated from.
So she says, oh, the president, he really wants to know. Well, then why hasn't he done anything about it? Why haven't the Democrats done anything about it? Now, listen, if the Republicans, because let's all just completely understand and accept and acknowledge that Karine Jean-Pierre, she lies and she lies often. She's a terrible liar. Jen Psaki, at the very least, was a good liar. But Karine Jean-Pierre, she's clearly lying, and she makes no bones about the fact that she's lying. But here's the thing. If the Republicans are serious about all of this in the House of Representatives, and I believe that they are, not only will they investigate China and the lab leak, they'll do it aggressively and unapologetically. That's number one. Number two, they also need to investigate Dr. Anthony Fauci and his constantly changing guidelines. Remember, masks are ineffective and we don't need to wear the masks you have to mask up or you're going to die, right? the data manipulation, and, of course, the funding of that gain-of-function research. All of these things need to be investigated. Also, I believe the media needs to be investigated as well. I don't really know how to hold the media accountable, but we all know that they were wrong. From the New York Times and the Washington Post, I could go on and on and on. They know that they were wrong about all of this, big time. Will they acknowledge it? Not really. But how do you hold the media accountable with all of this? I believe that the way that you hold the media accountable is exactly what you're doing. And that is finding other sources of information outside of the mainstream media. Because we know that the mainstream media, not only did they lie about this whole thing, but they canceled those who absolutely knew the truth. That's why the trust in media is at an all-time low. 521 on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Blame for Afghanistan's collapse. Nashville schools might get gun detectors. Laverne police sex scandal lawsuit and a security breach at the U.S. Marshals Service. These stories and more at 5:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken. 527, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk. And a really bizarre story. This is the headline, Ken. I'm not sure if you've seen this or not. We'll explore this.
All right.
During the Gang of Three Amigos. What's that?
I like bizarre stories.
Tennessee cops are seeking a suspect who killed official state animals and dumped their lifeless animal bodies under a bridge.
Okay.
The Fox News just put this out. I don't know. Today, what is today? Today is the 28th, right?
Today is the 28th, the final day of February.
So they just put this out a little bit ago, 28 minutes ago, as a matter of fact. What is our state animal?
I'm looking it up right now.
I didn't know.
Well, it sounds like an episode of Yellowstone.
It does, doesn't it? Raccoons. A raccoon can't
A raccoon is apparently the Tennessee official wild animal, according to the internet. No, according to tn.gov.
Okay. A raccoon is our official state wild animal.
Wild animal.
Now, do we have an official state tame animal?
We've got two state birds. One is the mockingbird.
Appropriate.
And the other one is the bobwhite quail.
The bobwhite quail?
Yeah, little fat birds.
Okay.
And let's see. We don't have grizzly bears.
No.
We do have mountain lions.
By the way, Cocaine Bear apparently is all the rage. That movie. We got to go. It's 5:28.
Okay.
Well, all of a sudden, we're going down the road of the Gang of Three Amigos, and once I go down the road of Cocaine Bear, man, we ain't ever coming back.
Yeah, we might as well.
We'll need more. We'll need more.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll talk about who is slaughtering the raccoons.
Probably that Cocaine Bear. Looking for more.
You know, it could be that Cocaine Bear.
Yeah, it could be.
You know, when you get cocaine, when you do cocaine, do you get the munchies?
No.
Okay, well then maybe it's not the Cocaine Bear going out and eating the raccoons. Anyway, 529 Nashville's Morning News. Friends, if you think that you need concrete leveling, waterproofing, or foundation work, you've got to call the people that I trust, United Structural Systems. These folks are amazing. I am one of 23,000 100% satisfied customers that they have helped over the years. Now, these folks at United Structural Systems, they are the absolute best. They'll also provide services with no down payment. So if you believe that you've got some problems with your concrete leveling, maybe you need some waterproofing for your home, maybe some foundation work, don't stress and call the best USS. You know, homeowners do trust United Structural Systems. Tell them Dan Mandis told you to reach out, 615-227-2275, 615-227-2275, USSTN.com.
$5:30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Today's going to be the nicest day of the week. Not much wind, the same temperatures as we had yesterday. So enjoy today because changes come tomorrow. We'll tell you about it during the full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. Afghanistan collapse, a new investigation into how easy it was for the Taliban to take back Afghanistan, even though the U.S. military spent almost 20 years there.
Nobody wanted to die for Ghani. That's what Afghanistan's former interior minister said about his former president in a special inspector general for Afghanistan reconstruction report that analyzed the collapse of the Afghan government. The report put blame on a variety of parties on both sides, including the Pentagon, saying there was a lack of accountability for the weapons it provided. The report said American troops left more than $7 billion worth of equipment in Afghanistan when they withdrew in 2021.
Right now in Nashville, Metro Nashville Public Schools is considering installing a system whereby security cameras can detect guns immediately and then trigger lockdowns and call police. The Metro School Board votes tonight. A federal civil rights lawsuit's been filed in the Laverne Police Department sex scandal. The lawsuit filed Monday alleges Megan Hall, the only female in this department fired for the scandal, claims she was a victim of sexual harassment while being groomed for sexual exploitation. And since the matter's gone worldwide, she has been publicly ridiculed and can't find another job. And the Department of Justice says hackers accessed sensitive information about employees and investigations from the U.S. Marshals.
At this moment, we don't know exactly what's missing, but what we do know is that the area in which was accessed contained law enforcement sensitive material, among other things. That is all part of the Justice Department's review, which will be ongoing and is being looked at right now.
Luke Barr reporting says the U.S. Marshal Service does say no witness protection program files were included. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
You guys want to hear how my day's going?
Sure.
Yeah.
So apparently I can't even stand at the urinal without flooding the bathroom.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
And do you think that we have an appropriate mop in this place?
No.
It's a $9 million radio station. We don't have a mop.
Uh-oh.
Goodness.
That's going to be a note from Charlie.
So I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened before I got there.
Yeah.
But there was a note a couple of weeks ago on the urinal or whatever that said, "Don't you people know how to flush?" So I do my duty and I utilize the urinal and then I flush the toilet. It overflows. And I'm standing there like, I don't know what to do.
Goodness gracious.
Well,
the water is just,
do.
I don't know who or what, but I mean, it wasn't me.
So you had already started the process and couldn't escape.
No, I finished, I flushed, and then, of course, that horrific feeling of watching the water rise out of the urinal and all over the floor, and I don't know what to do.
Well, see, that's one
Except
thing.
blame it on the sports guys.
Well, I did.
Other than that, I don't know what to do.
I did write a note under that note and said, we are flushing. It just won't flush down.
Well, now it won't stop.
And now it's not stopping.
You mean it's still running right now?
No, I got it to stop. I started messing with the handle.
Thank goodness.
It's just like, so now there's no way to clean it up. I'm during the break, I'm trying to force the dirty water into the drain. And the drain, of course, is in, one of the stalls. This is TMI about the facilities, but it's like, good Lord, man. So, Johnny, quit breaking the urinal. We can either blame the sports guys, Ken, or should we blame Johnny?
Boy, see, blame the brother, blame the sports guys. That's who we blame.
Okay, we blame the sports
Let's
guys.
blame these. You don't want to blame your own brethren.
Let's blame the sales staff.
That's who we blame.
That's
Let's
who we
blame the
blame.
sales staff.
You know how they like to come up here? They're always trying to come up here and hang out with us.
Yeah, they're loitering and, stopping us from doing work and wanting to
Walking into
socialize.
the studio in the middle of a bit. Yeah.
Hey, can you fit this in 60 seconds?
Hey, can you read this real quick?
Hey, can you get this on right away, ASAP?
I know it's 3 pages, but we need it in 30.
Hey, I know it's 2 in the afternoon, but are you already gone?
You know what my favorite is? Getting a something from someone, whether it's a phone call or whatever, at like 6:35 at night.
Yes.
There will be people in management that will call up above me.
Yes.
That will call me at 6:35 at night, like I'm still awake.
Yeah, that's your.
They have no idea.
That's your Betty by time.
Hey, we needed this yesterday.
Dude, I am in REM sleep by 6:35, and if I'm not, then there's going to be problems the next day. Speaking of problems, and we're gonna get the whole thing about who's killing the raccoons in a second, though.
Yes.
You guys hear what Biden said yesterday?
Let's hear it.
I may be a white boy, but I'm not stupid.
Now I don't know. Is he trying to call white people dumb? That's what some people are saying.
It sounds like it.
It sound. People are accusing the president of, because they were wrapping up February, which is
Black History Month.
Black History Month, and so I guess he was wrapping up Black History Month, and he, said,
I may be a white boy, but I'm not stupid.
I actually think he is stupid.
I'm a white boy. I put a big ribbon on Black History Month right there.
Like, it has nothing to do with being white. It just has to do with him being Biden.
Yeah.
I mean,
I may be a white boy, but I'm not stupid.
Anyway,
who does he think he is, Mel Tillis?
Can I just say the Biden, shanks are just getting a little too easy. I've actually stopped doing them because it's like daily onslaught of the low-hanging fruit of the president of the United States.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I would love to make fun of him every single day for comments like,
I may be a white boy, but I'm not stupid.
Problem is he's like destroying the country, so I don't find it funny anymore.
And why do we have to continually talk about race? I'm so sick of it.
Well, we got to talk about race because one is the president is pandering. Of course, we know that he is the panderer in chief. There's that. But also this country on the left, right, progressives and the Democrats, they're obsessed over race. They're obsessed over critical race theory. They're obsessed with indoctrination and indoctrinating our children. They're obsessed with reparations. And if you're against reparations, well, then you're a racist. I mean, I could go on and on, but 50% of America. Here's the thing. You think most Democrats, it goes back to that story we had yesterday. What was the story yesterday about how there was a poll? It was Scott Adams, Dilbert, right? There's that poll that showed that, I forget exactly what it was, but.
Is it okay to be white?
Is it okay to be white? What a stupid.
Like give a choice.
I would like to get in touch with, all the black people I know and just ask them, are you guys okay with me being white? And just see what they say. Because they would laugh about that.
They would probably, yes.
Yeah, they would laugh. Because it's just a dumb question. And so yesterday, people were saying, well, the story isn't about Scott Adams. The story is the answer to the polling question, which showed that, you only had I forget what it was. Was it 53% said it was okay to be white, which meant that, you had roughly 50% that said that, no, it was not okay to be white.
And I thought I saw 63%.
You know what? I don't have the story in front of me now. But the whole point is, I didn't really necessarily cover that aspect to it because I thought that the whole thing was just dumb.
Yeah.
Like I discounted the poll on the surface because the question itself was so dumb. And so for me, but to answer your question, Ken, why are we so obsessed with race in this country? It's because the media and the left and the politicians, they are the ones that just simply keep perpetuating the discussions about race. And so,
well, I didn't ask that question, but
what was your question?
I didn't ask one.
I was the one that.
I'm sorry, Johnny.
It's okay. It's already. Ken and I look so much alike. I can understand why people get us.
Well, we're real good looking.
Yeah, we are good looking fellas.
You know what? To be honest, I was looking.
But we're white.
I was looking for.
We are white.
And even though we're white, we're not stupid.
Listen,
I may be dumb, but I'm not stupid.
I'll speak for all of us. It's okay to be white, and no, we're not dumb.
No. Even though my wife says I am sometimes.
53%. My wife too. 53. Ken, how about your wife?
My wife showers me with kisses and hugs every day and says, you're the smartest person I know.
I want to know why Ken keeps kissing ass. Like, I want to know, like, you do that all the time. I want to know.
That's the truth, dude.
Is it? She showers you with compliments?
She can't get enough of kissing me.
That is awesome. Good for you, Weaves.
Yeah, well, my wife kisses me, too. I have to. A lot.
Good.
Yeah.
All right. Apparently. I'm silent on this whole thing.
Yeah, you really are. You just went.
By the way,
where are you going with this, brother Dan Mandis?
I asked the folks moving along. I asked very well. I asked the folks on the super text line. So how's my mustache coming in?
Yeah.
Because yesterday, speaking of wives, Amy said you look like you drank chocolate milk and you need to find a napkin. She likes it in person, but you just couldn't really see it, on the YouTube or Facebook Live and what have you.
On the Facebook Live.
Yes. By the way, so here's what it was. 53% agreed that it's okay to be white. Thank you, those 53% of black Americans. I so appreciate your acknowledgement that it's okay to be white. You had 20%, 26% who disagreed, 21% who weren't sure. That's why I was confused on the numbers. So 26, 36, 47% refused to say that it was okay to be white. Now, again, I discounted the whole thing on its surface because I believe that whole thing is just a dumb, useless poll meant to do nothing but divide.
Exactly.
I mean, I could have done an entire segment on that. I could have. I just thought that it was dumb.
Very dumb.
All right, so Tennessee cops seek the suspect who is killing the official state animal and dumping their dead animal bodies under a bridge. This is east of Knoxville. Now, I don't know, is it C-O-C-K-E? C-O-C-K-E. Is that Cook County?
Cock County.
Cock County?
Yep.
Of course it is. So they say that...
You got to go down that road, don't you?
Nope, I'm not. I want to talk about who's killing the poor wild animals.
Yeah, poor raccoons.
There we go.
Smart little fellas.
Now, why are they killing? Are raccoons smart?
Oh, they're very intelligent.
Are they better? Are they
yes.
smarter than dolphins?
I don't know about that, but I'll tell you this. So we have a bird feeder, and we have what is called soot, little cages. And we even tied it up where they couldn't open it. Those little guys figured out how to get these, like they would chew through the ties and open it. I had to put locks on it. And they've even tried to open that.
Well, they get into my trash.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we have raccoons. We left, there was like a side door that was open. Those darn raccoons got into my garage. And in my garage, I have all my COVID food, when we were stacking up on food and toilet paper.
Not anymore.
Now I'm out of toilet paper. They got into the Top Ramen. We had like an entire case of Top Ramen. Amy comes home and she sends me a picture of like 10 to 12 packages of Top Ramen that was literally empty. They got in there at their little claws and they ate all of that dry Top Ramen.
Well, see, at my father-in-law's house.
Enjoy the cholesterol.
Yeah.
Raccoons.
Well, at my father-in-law's house, it had an electric garage door opener. Mm-hmm. And he closed it. And you get down the house, you had to go down a hill. Well, they went down the hill and they said, hey, we thought you closed the garage door. And he said, I did. Well, it's open.
Yeah.
And he'd go back and close it. Found out it was raccoons. They had figured out how they were living up in the upper part of the garage. They had got in and they had figured out how to open the door.
Goodness.
So what you're saying, this is where we trigger PETA. So what you're saying, Johnny, is that whoever's killing these raccoons is doing us all a favor?
I'm not going to even comment. I used to be at war with little trash pandas, but now
I did too.
Now I love them.
Well, now it actually is bizarre. You've got dead raccoons that were cleaned up under this bridge in Cock County, and you've got just like 13 dead raccoons. So somebody is literally, I guess, killing the raccoons and then dumping them off in this area.
Uh-oh.
I don't know. They must be maybe poisoning the raccoons. I don't know.
Well, I wonder why they're immediately tying it to it's the fact that the raccoon is the state's official wild animal. What if this person is just randomly killing raccoons and they have no idea that it's the state's official animal?
They probably
wild
don't.
Animal.
I wonder how many people, did you guys know the raccoon was our state animal?
I had no
animal?
idea.
I didn't know.
I didn't. I don't even know why states do this.
I sure do hate Tennessee. I'm going to show them.
Got to go out and kill a bunch of raccoons.
I'm going to kill every raccoon I see.
But on a serious note, they need to find this person.
Yeah, they do.
Well,
this is
weird.
Bizarre.
It is absolutely bizarre. So they'll.
Well, somebody was probably,
Where is Cock County? I got to look that.
Little trash
it's East of Knoxville. East of Knoxville.
Oh, okay.
Little trash pandas were probably being a nuisance because they can be.
Oh, yeah.
And they're mean. Even though people think they're cute, they're mean.
I don't think raccoons are cute.
Some people do.
Really?
Yeah. I think they're cute little animals.
I think they're cute.
I think
they've got razor sharp teeth.
I think they're a lot cuter under the tire of my car.
Uh-oh. The state.
Wow.
Boy, I think we found our culprit.
I'm kidding.
Boy, you are just...
Hey, have you been around Cock County lately, Mr. Mandis?
No, I've got an alibi. I was here overflowing the urinal in the bathroom at Cumulus.
Yeah, that's right. Okay.
Goodness.
I'm kidding. You know what? Maybe I'm just feeling, maybe I'm feeling a little punchy because the president of the United States called white people dumb.
Yeah. I may be a white boy, but I'm not stupid.
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm the one getting those trash pandas. I'm cutting hair.
Mm-hmm.
We're at war.
So what about Cocaine Bear?
I'm going to watch it.
You going to watch it?
I want to see it.
You guys want to see it?
I do. I just...
that looks like the kind of thing you would want to watch if you were stoned. And I don't get stoned.
Yeah, I don't either.
I'm going to watch it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to watch it myself. And there's a rumor that, and I don't know if this is true or not, but people keep telling me Waylon Jennings bought the stuffed bear at one time.
The actual cocaine bear?
Yeah, because he was stuffed, and he was I think at a market or something in East Tennessee, and Waylon, I don't know if this is true or not, but they said Waylon
It's on the internet. Must be.
Heard the story and bought the bear.
Yeah, Shooter Jennings tweeted out, "My daddy did not buy that bear."
See, that story's just gone crazy.
He didn't use those exact words.
Yeah, I bet he did.
Well, listen, when
he
Michael
said Waylon
Jackson
did not own that bear.
Well,
when Michael
I didn't
Jackson
think
Michael Jackson, what was that story about Michael Jackson and the Elephant Boy?
Elephant Man, yes.
Did he buy the bones or something?
He bought the remains or something. Yeah.
Goodness.
Wasn't that the first sign that we knew that Michael Jackson was little cray cray?
Well, Michael,
or was it when he started hanging out with monkeys as pets?
Michael just went cray cray when he got so enormously popular. Like if you noticed after Thriller, that's when he left the planet.
Yeah,
I think
you're right.
I think fame just does crazy things to people.
Well, you can't be normal.
No, you
I
can't.
mean, when you're as famous as Michael Jackson was,
yeah,
you can't go anywhere.
No, and people treat you like you're a god or a deity.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Yeah,
that is the problem. 5:54 on Nashville's morning news.
That was an odd gang of three.
Johnny, make sure this one does not air for best of. But mainly because I don't want any evidence that I'm the one that actually overflowed the toilet.
How about
can that be just our little secret?
If the podcast thing works, can we podcast it?
Only if you edit this part out.
Okay.
Like we talked about raccoons, the president talking about how white people are dumb.
That's too much work. Nah.
And
no, we just won't podcast.
All right, very good. All right, 5:54 Nashville's morning news on WTN. 5:59, Nashville's morning news on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I don't know if I've ever seen Governor Lee as irritated and angry as he was yesterday when he responded to a question from a reporter. And it was, for the reporter, a moment where he got sort of, if you will, slapped into submission by the governor. We'll talk about that and a whole lot more straight ahead. It's Nashville's morning news on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It is 6 o'clock on the dot this Tuesday morning. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. It is going to be a fantastic day today, especially for February. We're talking about just as warm yesterday, but without the wind. Change is coming, though. Full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. President Biden will put Republicans on defense later today.
He claims Republicans will target the Affordable Care Act, Medicare, and Medicaid in order to balance the federal budget. And President Biden says he and Democrats will stop them. Mr. Biden will deliver that warning in Virginia Beach, Virginia, even though Republicans haven't yet unveiled their budget plans. Some Republicans are still saying that they'll need to either eventually cut Social Security as well or raise the retirement age in order to get it.
Well, Republicans are warning money for Social Security is going to run out by 2034 unless there are changes to the funding mechanisms. And before raising the debt ceiling again, they're trying to negotiate a deal to cut spending first, but Biden and Democrat leaders refuse to negotiate so far. Right now in Nashville, Metro Nashville Public Schools considering installing a system whereby security cameras will detect guns immediately and trigger lockdowns and call police. Costs $1 million. The Metro School Board votes tonight. And a federal civil rights lawsuit's been filed in the Laverne Police Department sex scandal. The lawsuit filed Monday alleges Megan Hall, the only female fired over the matter, was a victim of sexual harassment while being groomed for sexual exploitation. And since the matter's gone worldwide, she's been publicly ridiculed and can't find another job. And all eyes today on the nation's highest court as the U.S. Supreme Court justices appear to prepare to hear oral arguments today on whether President Biden's student debt relief plan is legal.
Overnight, a group of demonstrators braving the winter cold and rain outside the U.S. Supreme Court, camping out for a front row seat inside the courtroom when oral arguments begin today on President Biden's ambitious student loan forgiveness plan. College freshman Ibrahim Mudassar speaking directly to the justices.
You could help 40 million other people in the United States and jumpstart their path to freedom as well.
The latest Quinnipiac poll shows a majority of Americans support the plan.
Faith Abube from Washington. Market Numbers Report brought to you by Beacon Capital Management. Online at beaconcm.com. Here's Jim Ryan.
Investors yesterday gained back some of the ground they lost last week. The Dow Jones rose 72 points Monday to close at 32,889. The S&P picked up 0.3%. The Nasdaq added 0.6 on the day. It isn't like the COVID days when everyone was doing business virtually, but Zoom has reported fiscal fourth quarter results that beat analysts' expectations. Revenue for the video conferencing company was up 4% year over year in the fourth quarter. The House Foreign Affairs Committee today is expected to approve a measure giving President Biden the authority to essentially ban TikTok. The Chinese-owned video sharing app has come under fire from both parties as a potential U.S. security threat. Apple is gaining ground in the worldwide smartphone market. While Samsung phones running Android are still the sales leader, new numbers show preference for premium phones shifting toward iPhones, even in Samsung's home country of South Korea.
Futures are up before the opening bell on Wall Street. Dow futures up 75, S&P 10, NASDAQ 35. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Nashville's Morning News with Dan Mandis.
And so, my fellow Americans,
We talk news. Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
6:08 Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Good morning to your friends. Hey, it's 7:05. Congressman Mark Green is going to be joining us this morning. Later on this morning, he has his first major hearing in his role as chairman of the Committee of Homeland Security. So they'll be talking about, and he and I will speak about illegal immigration and a few other things as well. 7:05, Congressman Mark Green joining us here on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Super Talk TV is up and running on YouTube, also Facebook Live, Twitter, Twitch. Also, the video runs at 997WTN.com. Also, the Super Text line remains open, 615-737-9986, 615-737-WWTN. So this made some news yesterday. Johnny needs some audio. The governor was in the middle of a press conference, and it was an outdoor press conference, and he is confronted. That's the way the media is playing this whole thing. The governor was confronted by an old high school yearbook photo where, yes, the governor was dressed like a woman or, quote, in drag, and he is now being accused of hypocrisy because he is about to sign this bill that would restrict drag shows. So this is a 1977 photo, and this is, frankly, part of what you would call a high school tradition. Do you know, I think that they even did this. I went to high school in the 80s, and I remember when football players would have to, for whatever reason, dress up like girls at pep rallies. And they're surrounded by cheerleaders, and everybody thinks it's funny, and they're walking around in high heels, and it's a very ha-ha moment. Well, the governor didn't find it funny.
Remember dressing in drag in 1977? Remember this?
What a ridiculous question that is. Conflating something like that?
I mean, listen to how angry the governor is. I mean, I got to tell you, I love how ticked off the governor is.
Remember dressing in drag in 1977? Remember this?
What a ridiculous question that is. Conflating something like that to sexualized entertainment in front of children, which is a very serious subject.
Drag is not sexual.
Andy, what you got?
Do you remember it?
Andy, what you got? So he tried to pivot, of course, to Andy, but the reporter, I don't know, somebody said it was from these folks are from the Tennessee Holler. Now, here's the thing. He is the governor for the state of Tennessee. And so these are the kinds of things that, unfortunately, when you're the governor of a conservative state, you're going to be asked these kinds of questions. But, you know, I agree with what the governor is saying. Now, this photograph, by the way, is from a 1977 yearbook, and there is I'm assuming 17, 18-year-old Governor Lee, and he's dressed up as a woman wearing, you know, a dress and what have you. To me, it's not a big deal. But the anti-drag bill, if that's what you want to call it, is about protecting kids from drag shows. It doesn't ban men from dressing up as women. So the whole thing, as the governor said, you're trying to conflate two things that don't need to be conflated. Of course, as you know, social media and progressives are going absolutely nuts on this thing. Screaming hypocrisy, but it's really not. This is from the Daily Mail. Because you got the left and social media, folks at the Tennessee Holler or whatever, and they think that this is some big gotcha moment, and it's not. From the Daily Mail. As social media users cried hypocrisy, Lee's office said the photo did not fit the description of what would be banned under the law. The bill specifically protects children from obscene, sexualized entertainment. And any attempt to conflate this serious issue with lighthearted school traditions is dishonest and disrespectful to Tennessee families. And I would agree. I mean, we've talked about this bill 1,000 times on WTN. It feels like I've done it 1,000 times. But it bans drag shows in front of kids, period. And so when Governor Lee was asked about this, I just played you the audio. You can tell that he's angry. And so the press conference ends, and off goes the governor, exits stage left, and this guy actually follows the governor. He's holding the picture. Governor, don't you have any kind of a comment regarding this picture of you in drag? Aren't you, riddled with hypocrisy?
Would you be okay with
Thank
drag
y'all
queens
for your
coming?
time today. Appreciate it, y'all. Thank
Is
you.
it okay if drag queens come to this school? Because this is you. This is you at a high school, Governor. This right here is you at a high school.
Yeah.
Is it only illegal when gay people do it, Governor? Is this you?
That's my favorite part of the whole soundbite, when the governor just slams the door. And you know what? He's done, and the door slams. Now, of course, you have some folks on the other side that say not only is this bill unnecessary because we already have various laws in place to prevent such a thing as, this obscene or pornographic kind of a show in front of kids, but they also say that it discriminates, of course, against the LGBTQ plus community. Now, remember what the bill would do. It would ban drag shows on public property and anytime in front of kids. What it does not do is ban all drag performances from the public. It does prohibit them if they are found to be harmful to minors. And that's the whole point. This is a story about the left trying to make a deal out of this 77, 87, 97, 2007, 2017, almost 50-year-old picture, 45-year-old picture. And I agree with the governor. This whole thing is ridiculous. It is 6:15. Time to check the roads from the Paul Winkler Investment, WTN Traffic Center. Thank you, Jack. Today, sunny, a high of 75. Right now, 53 degrees at Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I'm trying to explain to you the difference between the rhetoric of the left talking about this supposed anti-trans bill or anti-drag bill that is making its way through the state legislature. Ultimately, the governor is going to sign this into law. And basically what it does is it bans drag shows in front of kids. Now, there's some nuances as well, but you do have the people on the left saying that this is anti-LGBTQ+, this is anti-drag, this is anti-trans, all of these things. And all it does, again, is just protects kids. And the fact that now you have the left saying there's this great aha moment is really not an aha moment at all. This is the governor dressed up in girls' clothing at a high school football rally, no doubt. He's surrounded by cheerleaders, I'm sure. And this happens everywhere, or at least it used to. Ken, Johnny, did they do this? I'm just going to ask you guys on the air. When you went to high school, I'm going to tell you when I went to high school, I seem to recall the football players being made to wear, high heels and this kind of a thing and lipstick. I think it was just, it's part of pep rallies, is it not?
Yeah, I think we did that at my school.
Yes,
that.
I'm reasonably certain we did that at my school back when I went to school in California.
Oh, the football players dressed up like female cheerleaders at my school.
Yeah, I think that was part of it. What about you, Johnny? Did they do this at your high school?
I don't remember. I don't think they did.
I would be willing to bet that they did this at most high schools. And here's the thing, though, is that there is a dishonesty about what they're trying to do with this photograph. There's a dishonesty, I would say, where they're trying to conflate these two things, obviously. The governor dressing up at a silly high school thing way back in 1977 and drag shows in front of kids. And so there is a dishonesty, and just like we see with the left all the time, there is this dishonesty about what it is that the Republicans are trying to do here in the state of Tennessee. They're not trying to ban, men dressed up as women at some sort of a high school rally. No. But, just like, and this is part of a pattern with the Democrats, right? Because we see this, we document this almost every day here on Nashville's Morning News, where there is a dishonesty about what the Republicans are trying to do. I mean, let's not forget the dishonesty when they accused Republicans, Democrats did, of trying to implement Jim Crow 2.0 laws in Texas and Georgia. That was a dishonest accusation, and the Democrats absolutely know that. And they know that to this day, and so does the media that supports them. And what about this notion that the border is closed? Also, there is a dishonesty about what the Democrats are actually doing, what the Republicans want to do. We also know the provable lie where the Democrats try to say, oh, yeah, the Republicans want to sunset Social Security and Medicaid. No, they don't. And that is a provable lie. So this dishonesty goes beyond the state of Tennessee and, what the Republicans want to do with these drag shows. It goes to many other facets of policy here in Tennessee and also at the federal level. 620 on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Want to tell you about my friends at DT McCall's. If you are even thinking about getting some new furniture and appliances this year, you owe it to yourself to check out my friends at DT McCall's. They've got everything you need for every room in your house. You know what else you need? You need customer service that is outstanding as well. Now, a lot of these other places, big box stores, they like to do that bait and switch. You buy one thing, the tag says one price. Well, then here come the upcharges. Well, not at DT McCall's, where the price on the tag is the price, period. And they have as many of their products made right here in the state of Tennessee as they can. So when you think about DT McCall's, I want you to think about their great quality, great craftsmanship, value prices, and terrific financing options as well. They've got 5 locations across Middle Tennessee. As always, tell them Dan Mandis told you to reach out. Franklin, Cookeville, Carthage, Lafayette, and Lebanon, always online at dtmccalls.com.
Hey everybody, I'm Paul Winkler. The financial world can be full of landmines for investors. On the one hand, investment firms and the financial community will often overcomplicate the financial planning process to confuse investors. As one guy who used to work a big investment firm once told me, if an investor thinks that they're over their head, they'll blindly trust you. And it's easier to sell to them. I'm glad I'm away from that. On the other hand, many people oversimplify investing to the detriment of investors. Just having a little knowledge can be really dangerous. The idea there is the same. It's just a different way of selling things. At Paul Winkler Inc., we like working alongside our clients with an education guidance approach. I believe that there's confidence that comes with knowing what you're doing and why. We abide by the very highest level of fiduciary care, and we use the most sophisticated financial planning tools out there. And every one of our offices is run by a degreed planner with over 20 years experience. No kids fresh out of college. If that sounds like a winning formula, set up a free 15-minute phone call to learn more. Go to paulwinkler.com or call 615-851-1950. You can do this.
An American caught in the crossfire. New gun detectors in Nashville schools are possible. A federal civil rights lawsuit filed in the Laverne police sex scandal. And a Ukraine defense advisor says he's confident American fighter jets will be on the way. This and more coming up at 6:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken. I'm just perusing that story about Megan Hall, the Laverne fired police officer. I can't get into it right now because kids are in the car.
Oh, yeah.
But maybe at 8:05, I will get into the complete and utter BS of this lawsuit. I'm reading this, and for her to claim that she was groomed, come on. Anyway, so I can't really get into it now because kids are in the car. I also don't want to or can't say what I want to say about this story. The headline is, very quickly, a bipartisan group of senators is talking about raising the retirement age on Social Security. They want to raise it to 70. So if you, I guess, want to get full benefits of your Social Security, you've got to wait till you're 70 before you retire. I mean, how old are we going to have to be working before we actually get our Social Security? You know, it feels like what they want to do, and they're just talking about this right now, folks, but it feels like what they want to do is they want us to pay all of this money into Social Security, yet they still want us to work right up until the time that we die so that we don't actually get to enjoy the fruits of our labor. That's what it seems like. Now, I do understand that right now people are living longer, and that's all fine, well, and good. But most people want to be able to enjoy the fruits of their labor. So now they're saying, oh, let's go ahead and this is bipartisan. By the way, this is Republicans as well as Democrats. I do understand that Social Security is in trouble, which is exactly why the Republicans have been saying for years. And Joe Biden back in the 70s, they all said, we need to take a look at Social Security and figure out how to keep it solvent. And continuing to raise that age of retirement is not the answer to the problem. The problem is, number one, the spending within Social Security, and number two, the management of this, I don't even know what to call it, the agency, because the problem is that the more that they try to manage it, the more money they seem to lose. And the fewer people that are working in America today, the fewer money is going into Social Security. So they got to figure something out. That is exactly why the Republicans and some Democrats have said we need to look at Social Security, not to try to sunset it, but to keep it solvent. But again, to me, raising the retirement age to 70 doesn't seem to me to be part of a solution, especially after people like me, Johnny, Ken, we have all been giving into Social Security our entire working lives.
I'll be lucky if I make it to 69.
Yeah, I'm right. I saw this. I was like triggered. I was like, are you kidding me? Really? That's what we're going to do now? We're going to just keep raising? Because didn't it used to be 63? I think the retirement age used to be, I could be wrong on this. I think it went from 63 to 65 or now it's 67. Now they want to raise it up to 70. It's not fair to the people like us who have been putting into this thing for years. It is 6:30 on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I want to tell you about my friends at Advanced Hair. Now, when I started balding, I really would have loved my friends at Advanced Hair to save my receding hairline. They weren't around, but here's the good news for you. They are around now if you want to save your receding hairline. They're waiting for your call. Tell them Dan Mandis told you to reach out at 629-348-HAIR. 629-348-HAIR. Call them right now. They are finally available near Nashville. They've got your quick one-day solution to your hair loss, and it is guaranteed to help your hair grow. You're going to look 10 to 20 years younger, friends. And again, they're waiting for your call. They also want to give you a free consultation and $500 off when you mention my name, Dan Mandis. 629-348-HAIR, 629-348-HAIR, advancedhair.com.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories, and that is a big old bright sun coming up over the horizon. Going to warm us up today, too. Just like yesterday, only today it's going to be without the wind. Then changes come after tonight. Full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. Well, the wave of violence in the West Bank between Israelis and Palestinians is escalating. Here's Marcus Moore from the Foreign Desk in London.
Ilan Ganel, a 27-year-old American man with dual Israeli citizenship, was killed after a suspected Palestinian shooter opened fire in the West Bank on 3 different vehicles at 3 separate locations. Outrage growing over the Connecticut native's death. The Jewish Federation of Greater Hartford saying overnight a civilian was targeted by those who see violence toward the innocent as a solution. We extend our deepest condolences to the Ganela's family and affirm our solidarity with the people of Israel at this time of escalating violence.
Right now in Nashville, the school board votes tonight on a new way to protect students and staff. There's technology whereby security cameras immediately detect someone with a gun. It initiates lockdowns and calls police. The software from Omnalert would cost $1 million. Laverne police sex scandal update. The only female officer fired over it has filed a civil rights lawsuit. It claims Megan Hall was a victim of sexual harassment while being groomed for sexual exploitation. And war on Ukraine. Over a year since Russia invaded, and a Ukrainian defense advisor said yesterday he's confident Ukraine will eventually get U.S. fighter jets to help them fight Russia. Ian Pannell says for now, Ukraine's relying on other U.S. weaponry and training and pushing Russian forces back.
Intense battles raging across the front lines in eastern Ukraine. Street-to-street fighting in Bakhmut, the city in ruins. We visited the village of Kurilivka, one of many civilian areas repeatedly under Russian attack. Rita's home taking a direct strike. It's horrible, she says, but we'll hold on and hope God gives us victory.
That's the latest news, traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
6:38 Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. So I stand corrected. Apparently the age of retirement used to be 62. And now they're talking about raising it up to the age of 70. So it keeps going up. I don't think I'm ever going to be able to sit in that rocking chair by the lake. Just don't think it's going to happen. Because they won't let me. Because they won't let me have my Social Security till I'm 70.
Because they spent it.
Although, we'll see. That's what they're talking about, raising the Social Security age to 70 years old.
Just kicking it all down the road.
People are reacting on the super text line saying, well, why don't we just stop paying into it? I would love to stop paying into it. There have been people that have said, just let us stop paying into it, and then we'll be able to save that money and invest it for ourselves. And, of course, nobody wants to do that in the government, but anyway, yeah, it is. It triggered me in the previous segment. I'll go ahead and tweet out that story in case you are interested, but that is something that they are talking about. By the way, coming up at 7:05, Congressman Mark Green, this morning is his first major hearing in his role as chairman of the Committee on Homeland Security. Going to talk about illegal immigration, foreign policy, and any number of topics. Again, Congressman Mark Green joining us at 7:05 on WTN. All right, so I love this. Everybody likes to talk about the battle between the rational and the woke. At least that's how I put it. There is a certain irrationality behind the people who in this country who are described as woke. I mean, all you have to do is look at people like Maxine Waters, people like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and so forth. And so you look at the woke, and I've described them really as kind of like the Walking Dead. They don't have a brain amongst them, and they have this lack of ability to have rational thought and ideas. And, we're talking earlier about the guys, the people, the reporters, whatever it is that you want to call them, that confronted, again, I love this, confronted Governor Lee with this picture of him in drag back in 1977. And I got to tell you that the super text line absolutely blew up when I said, didn't most schools do this in the 70s and 80s? I'd be willing to bet that some schools still do this, where the athletes dress up as girls at pep rallies and so forth. This is not a thing. You know what I would also say? I would also say that the people who try to make this a thing, that try to conflate this photograph of the governor dressed up in a dress way back in 1977 during this harmless thing they would do at his school, this funny tradition. If you are trying to conflate that with the whole drag show bill that is going through the Tennessee state legislature, ultimately going to end up on the governor's desk, if you're trying to conflate the two, all you're doing really is making yourself look bad. I mean, think about it. You are destroying your own credibility by trying to say that this is the same thing. Why don't you talk about the merits of the legislation as opposed to just sitting here trying to conflate the two? Because if you talk about the merits of the legislation, I believe the merits on the legislation win all day long. There is this today from the Citizens for Sanity, talking about the irrationality of the woke versus the rational thinking of, I'm going to be honest with you, most Americans. Listen to this. This just came out today again. Citizens for Sanity. I would say they are citizens for truth. Listen.
Have you ever boarded a plane and thought to yourself, I hope the pilot is a transgender refugee? Have you ever gone to the emergency room and said, I hope my medical team is incredibly diverse? Have you ever moved to a new city and said, I hope the police department hit its equity goals for the year? If your answer to these questions was no, if you just wanted the most qualified candidates for the job, then you are normal. But we have a lot of very not normal people running America these days.
Yep.
Left-wing politicians believe skin color or gender identity should determine who gets the job. Democrats used to care about the middle class. Now they just care about your race and your gender.
Yep.
And as long as Democrats stay in power, it will just keep getting worse. Stop the bigotry. Stop the insanity. paid for by Citizens for Sanity.
I mean, somebody please tell me where they're wrong. They're not. Here's an example, by the way. This is a headline from the Daily Mail. How just half of all of America's murders get solved as homicide clearance rates slump to their lowest level in 4 decades. In 1980, back when we were all sane, well, some of us were sane. Most of us were sane back in 1980. Back in 1980, you had 71% of the murders that were cleared. That doesn't mean a conviction. It just means that it went to trial. These days, only 50%. So you wonder why our streets are so incredibly crime-ridden. It's because, generally speaking, and there's a number of factors to this, but generally speaking, you do have bail reforms, you have the disrespect of the police officers, and you have the woke who are doing everything they can to destroy the justice system. And ultimately, at the end of the day, when you see that in 2020, only 50% of America's murders were solved, as opposed to back in 1980, the 71% were solved, what that tells you is that the American people are less safe now than they were in 1980 due to a number of different factors, including most certainly the woke policies of the left. I've got more on this. 645 on Nashville's Morning News. Time to check the roads from the Paul Winkler Investment WTN Traffic Center. Thank you very much. Sunny today, a high of 75. Right now, 52 degrees at Super Talk 99.7 WTN. 645, so I just gave you the headline, essentially crime, the solving of crimes these days is at the lowest point that it's been in decades, in my opinion, because of a number of factors, including, of course, the woke policies and bail reforms of the left. But, it's interesting. Because with all of this DNA technology, we've got cameras everywhere, not to mention stupid people posting their misdeeds on social media. You would think that the rate of solved crimes would be way up, but it's way down. They say America is now at risk. This is from the Daily Mail article. America is now at risk of becoming the first developed nation where the majority of murders go unsolved. Good part of this is a rise in the crime rates, of course, across the country, they say. Murders and manslaughter were being cleared at the highest crime rates way back when. These days, not so much. They also speak about robbery and assault and about how rape as well. All of these are being solved now at much lower rates. They say data from the Bureau of Justice Statistics demonstrate the killings are now less frequently committed by people the victim knew, with growing proportions of homicides being done by strangers. That is a change. Alternately as well, they say often in minority communities where trust in the law enforcement is lower, the investigators there struggle to get witnesses to talk to them. Snitches get stitches, right? I mean, how many times do you hear that? So this is all part of the woke mentality, where it is part of the woke mentality where they want to defund the police. They don't want communities to trust the police. On it goes. We all know that narrative. We all know that storyline after George Floyd. Well, when that is something that you perpetuate, well, then what do? Then you're creating an atmosphere in these minority communities where, guess what? Nobody wants to speak to the police. And so when the Citizens for Sanity come out with their commercial and they're talking about how it is absolutely insane for the Democrats and the progressives to continue to do what they do regarding criticizing law enforcement, doing whatever you can to make law enforcement look bad. Ultimately, what they're doing is they're harming the very communities that need the most protection. And that is incredibly sad. Now, coming up at 7:05, coming up here in just moments, we have Congressman Mark Green. He is going to be speaking to us about a number of things as his new role as chairman of the Committee on Homeland Security really begins in earnest today. He's got his first big hearing, and they're going to be talking about what is going on the southern border, illegal immigration, and the like. So really looking forward to Congressman Green at 7:05 here on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7. Also later this morning, you do not want to miss this. At 10:05, Michael DelGiorno is going to have John Irwin on. He is the writer and director of the movie Jesus Revolution. That's going to be at 10:05. Can't miss radio here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It is 6:50 on Nashville's Morning News. The Super Talk TV channel is up and running. YouTube, Twitch, Facebook Live, Twitter, and our website. Super Text line is open as well. 615-737-9986.
President Biden's going on the road again today. He's going to blame Republicans for wanting to do things to Social Security and Medicare that Republicans say they are not going to do. The Supreme Court takes up the president's student loan forgiveness plan today, and metro schools might get new technology that detects guns. These stories and more at 7 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken. 6:56, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Coming up in the next hour, we do have Congressman Mark Green joining us. Also, an incredible story. I cannot wait to share this with you. It's actually my favorite story of the day, because it's a good news story. A pastor, this is happening in Ferguson, Missouri. A pastor is in the middle of his Sunday sermon when in walks 4 guys with guns. Wait till I tell you the rest of the story. It's all straight ahead on Nashville's Morning News. Also from the Daily Mail. Listen to this, guys. So, of course, we all know we've been joking about Cocaine Bear, right? Well, the production company now behind Sharknado is set to release Attack of the Meth Gator this summer.
Ian Ziering, is he going to star in it?
I don't know. Ian Ziering from Beverly Hills 90210.
Yeah, they've got to have him in that.
And the gator will have bad teeth.
He can't stand California anymore. He's going to Florida.
That's exactly right. Have you guys ever actually seen Attack of the Killer Tomatoes?
I never have.
How about you? No, Johnny? Deemed the worst movie ever by some who deem such things. At some point, I want to watch it just because of the stupidity. I've got the same feeling towards Cocaine Bear, and we'll have the same feeling towards Attack of the Meth Gator.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to watch that, too.
Apparently, it's going to be hitting screens in May.
Well, I'll watch it at home.
6:57, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
7 o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Going to be a beautiful day today. That big old sun's going to warm us up to the mid-70s. We're not going to have the wind like we had yesterday. Then the changes come after tonight. Full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. President Biden will be putting Republicans on the defense later today.
He claims Republicans will target the Affordable Care Act, Medicare, and Medicaid in order to balance the federal budget. And President Biden says he and Democrats will stop them. Mr. Biden will deliver that warning in Virginia Beach, Virginia, even though Republicans haven't yet unveiled their budget plans. Some Republicans are still saying that they'll need to either eventually cut Social Security as well or raise the retirement age in order to get it.
Well, Republicans are warning money for Social Security runs out by 2034 unless there are changes to the funding mechanisms. And before raising the debt ceiling, they're trying to negotiate a deal to cut spending. But Biden and Democrat leaders are refusing to negotiate so far. The Supreme Court hears 2 challenges to President Biden's student loan forgiveness plan today. More than 26 million Americans have applied. The hearings start at 9 o'clock. And increasing pressure on Biden and his top generals to change their minds and send Ukraine American fighter jets anyway.
He says he's not criticizing President Biden.
You don't bite the hand that gives you HIMARSs, that gives you tanks, and then hopefully will give you F-16s.
U.S. generals say Ukraine needs those more than planes. Ukrainian defense advisor Yuri Sak.
We understand that they require training.
And?
The fighting during the past weeks has intensified.
He says he's confident Ukraine will get the fighter jets.
Right now in Nashville, metro schools may be getting new technology that detects guns and immediately initiates lockdowns and calls police. The board votes tonight on the $1 million cost. License plate reader cameras are credited with the arrest of a 16-year-old car thief who police say may be responsible for other crimes. Police say the camera had just gone up on Mormon's Arm Road and photographed a license plate of a vehicle that had been stolen from Titan Auto Sales on Gallatin Pike North. Well, police say the kid had keys, key fobs to 17 vehicles in his bedroom. He had ID documents and credit cards for at least 6 different people. And the only female officer fired in the Laverne police sex scandal has filed a federal civil rights lawsuit against the department and her former co-workers. The lawsuit filed Monday alleges Megan Hall was a victim of sexual harassment while being groomed for sexual exploitation. Market Numbers Report brought to you by Beacon Capital Management. Online at beaconcm.com. Jim Ryan says TikTok's in the government crosshairs and Apple is gaining on Samsung.
The House Foreign Affairs Committee today is expected to approve a measure giving President Biden the authority to essentially ban TikTok. The Chinese-owned video-sharing app has come under fire from both parties as a potential U.S. security threat. Apple is gaining ground in the worldwide smartphone market, while Samsung phones running Android are still the sales leader. New numbers show preference for premium phones shifting toward iPhones, even in Samsung's home country of South Korea.
Futures are up before the opening bell on Wall Street. Dow up 87, S&P 13, NASDAQ 49. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Nashville's Morning News with Dan Mandis.
And go, my fellow Americans.
We talk news. Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
7:08 Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Big day for Congressman Mark Green as he's holding his first major hearing in, Congressman, your role as chairman of the Committee on Homeland Security. And I can't wait to find out what you folks are going to be talking about. I know that you just got back from the southern border. I know that illegal immigration is going to be a big topic of conversation today. Welcome, Congressman Green. And how was your trip to the southern border?
Oh, it was really good, Dan. And, thanks for having us on. We took, I called it the border boot camp. Being a military guy, I just thought it was the right terminology. We took all the brand new freshman congressmen who are on my committee down to the border. It was the largest congressional delegation trip to the border that the Homeland Security Committee has ever had, and just got to see a little bit of it all. We started at one of the crossing sites, and while we were there, they got about 70 pounds of fentanyl that tried to drive right across the border. Went out to the border wall and did literally what they call the dog and pony show. We got to meet the horse guys and we got to meet the dog guys, and it was just a great trip. Talk to Border Patrol, and get the real story, not the Biden-Mayorkas story, which is obviously deception and subterfuge. But it's crazy. It's insane what's going on at our border. It's an open border, and the drug cartels have really seized operational control of the border. So it's we gotta fight, and that's what we're going to do.
Well, Congressman, one of the things that you've said is you were surprised to see when you went down to the border about how the drug cartels are using diversionary tactics. And so talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so essentially I call it a neutralizing attack. That's a military term. Essentially, the cartels are flooding the crossing sites with people, mass waves of people. So the Border Patrol has to thin the line in the rural areas in order to process these, mass waves of people. And they do it, from a strategic perspective, they do it at the crossing sites, and then they have free access basically to the country in the rural areas. On a tactical level, they've got a scout on a hilltop that sees Customs and Border Patrol, and they literally send 20 or 30 people to that person to turn themselves in. While that person is tied up, the drugs come running around the other side of the hill. So it's both at the tactical and the strategic level, the cartels are in control, and Mayorkas just doesn't get it. Or well, I take that back. You got to see this as intentional. There's no other way to view it. They're not that stupid.
I don't know, Congressman. They're pretty dumb, but moving on from there. Calling for Alejandro Mayorkas, many Republicans have called for Congressman Mayorkas, head of Homeland Security, of course, to be impeached. Secretary is going to be impeached. Talk a little bit about that. Is that conversation going to happen today?
No. What we're doing today is this is our sort of first salvo. So we're going to, the goal today is to show essentially that every American is at risk with this open border. And we're going to have a mother from Michigan who lost 2 children to fentanyl overdose. She had a 19-year-old and a 20-year-old son that were at a party. Everybody in the hotel room took this drug they thought was something else, and it killed everyone in the room. And she's going to talk about just how horrible that was. And we're going to have a sheriff from, I think, Arizona, who's going to talk about crime in his base in his county and what it's costing the community there. We've got a hospital CEO who's going to talk about, basically he can't, people in his community can't even go to the hospital because it's overwhelmed with migrants, with illegal aliens, and the cost, the uncompensated care is about to bankrupt the hospital. Now, this is a hospital on the border, so it's obviously much greater there, but this is something that's happening all over the country. So there's a dollar cost to this. And when you let 4.7 million people into the country, I mean, 25 states in the country have populations less than 4.6 million. So it's a massive cost financially. Just the processing centers alone are $68 million to operate quarterly. So, I mean, it's insane, the financial cost. It's insane, the human cost. And no American is safe from this. We're all paying the price of Mayorkas's, open border. And so we're going to make that point today. And every American is at risk here. And we're going to do a border hearing. We're going to take everybody to the border for a committee hearing on mid-March. The goal there is it's Mayorkas's fault. And then after that, we're going to begin more of a deep dive into Mayorkas's failures or intentional destruction of the country. And after that, we'll build a case and hand it off to judiciary. My committee doesn't have the authority to do impeachment, so right. we're just going to go get the facts.
Well, I think when you look at the facts, I mean, the part of what you are doing today, the theme is the human cost to every American. You're going to talk about the financial cost, the criminal cost, the impact on our nation from a number of different vantage points, as you just discussed. I know that, and this is just something that has been a bee in my bonnet for, since it happened, and that was Mayorkas lying about the Border Patrol whipping those Haitians. And he knew that was false. He knew that was a lie, yet he perpetuated that lie, in my opinion, for political gain. Will that also be part of the conversation?
There's actually going to be an entire hearing dedicated to that. And when I was on the border this time, I took Dan Bishop, who is the chairman of the Subcommittee on Oversight for Homeland. He and I shot a video with the horse soldiers, the horse guys, and we're going to have a separate hearing with him leading it just on that issue. Mayorkas knew. I mean, he had the facts.
He had the email.
Yeah, and threw his own guys under the bus for political gain. So, I mean, absolutely, that will be an entire hearing.
Congressman Mark Green joining us, 7:15 on Nashville's Morning News. Congressman, hold on one sec. If you could, I know you're busy preparing. Need to check the roads here in Nashville from the Paul Winkler Investment WTN Traffic Center. Sunny today, a high of 75 right now, 52 degrees at Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Congressman Mark Green joining us. Congressman, once again, thank you for your time. So we have the Republicans, of course, have control of the House. The Democrats have the Senate and the White House. I know that everybody's talking about a number of different things, including illegal immigration. My question for you is, what can be done realistically regarding illegal immigration with the makeup of the Senate and, of course, the White House?
So it's, obviously it's a little bit of an uphill battle, particularly as it relates to the judiciary side of this, because you're right, immigration is both the structure or the infrastructure, technology, and people at the border, which is sort of in my jurisdiction. But the incentives, basically no consequence, which is what is happening right now, America. That's why the flood of people are coming. There's no consequence to people breaking that law. That sort of lies in the Judiciary Committee. So the Immigration and Naturalization Act, the INA, that currently requires detention, requires returning people to the first country, all that stuff that they're not doing, the laws they're not following. That falls under Jim Jordan's committee. So Jim and I are working hand in hand. He's got a bill, I've got a bill. What we're going to do, those two bills will advance. I'm going to put mine on the floor probably first or second week of April. He's going to do it same time, same day, hopefully, and then they'll join those into one bill in the Rules Committee, and it'll go to the Senate. Now, it probably won't get passed, and then what we'll do is we'll pound the Senate for a few months, and then we'll break pieces off and just try to move the needle a little bit, and with smaller things that we can pass. The goal, of course, to fix it all, but if they don't pass the big bill, then we'll pass smaller ones that we think can get by them and just move the needle.
And Congressman, I will say, not to interrupt, but I will say that there is something to be said for bringing awareness, because I think that there is
absolutely
seriously issues, and even as you said, it's an uphill battle, but it's important the American people are aware of what's going on, and that is part of what is going on with these committees as well. Very quickly, from your seat on the Foreign Affairs Committee now, let's talk about Ukraine real quick. Earlier, it was last week, President Biden said that we're going to continue to support Ukraine, assuming he means billions of dollars in military aid and financial aid and so forth, for as long as it takes. And we've already given, billions of dollars to Ukraine. What is your vantage point? What is your opinion on what is going on with the just nonstop blank check support of Ukraine?
Yeah, I'm not so sure that blank check is there anymore. I mean, the conversations we're having are, what does victory look like? And I'm not sure this president has a good idea. He certainly isn't acting as if he knew what victory looked like. Clearly, Zelensky has expectations that are, I think, way beyond what the American people are going to be supportive of, and that's him retaking Crimea and all that stuff. I mean, so my gut tells me that we're going to continue to push Biden to come up with an end state here and articulate that not only to Congress but to the country, or we're going to stop writing the check. I mean, clearly Vladimir Putin is a war criminal. He's invaded another country. Xi Jinping is watching this. How much we allow Putin to get away with this is going to impact whether Xi Jinping goes into Taiwan. Of course, the impact on that is it disrupts the entire economy because 94% of the semiconductors are made, high-end semiconductors are made in Taiwan. So until the CHIPS Act is fully executed and we're making chips back home, that becomes a huge issue for the United States. So pushing back on Putin is good, but we need a clear objective here. We're not going to write another dime to the administration or to Ukraine.
All right, Congressman Mark Green, thank you very much. I know you're busy, and I very much appreciate you being with us here on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. He's absolutely right about Ukraine and President Biden. We did a deep dive into that yesterday, where you've got a president who is literally just writing checks and giving billions of dollars in military aid, not to mention, of course, giving, if you will, quote unquote, pensions to the people of Ukraine as well, while our own 401ks are becoming worth less and less every single day thanks to this president's policies. So I think that for the American people, we're looking at what's going on in Ukraine, and we have President Biden saying, for as long as it takes, whatever it takes and so forth, even though there isn't any real strategy going on here. It's just, more and more tens of millions and billions of dollars. And for the American people, with everything that's going on with our economy, clearly there's a lot of frustration. So again, appreciate Congressman Mark Green joining us on WTN. Dan Mandis here for my friends at LT360. Listen, if you are tired of taking medications and you want preventative health care that is going to help keep you healthy as opposed to simply treating you when you're sick, you've got to call my friends at LT360 today. Let me give you the phone number, 615-815-0390. Always important you tell them Dan Mandis told you to reach out. 615-815-0390. You know my story. They helped me lose 65 plus pounds. I have been able to keep it off. Now your story begins with a phone call, 615-815-0390. At LT360, they've got the highest success rating out there in helping to prevent and fighting off the symptoms of chronic illness. You can find them online. Again, tell them Dan Mandis told you to reach out. It's LT360.com.
A first for Tennessee Congressman Mark Green. Hear him tell you about it here in just a moment. Also, Afghanistan collapse. There's a new investigation into how easy it was for the Taliban to take it back. Metro Nashville Public Schools considering installing a system that detects guns. These stories and more at 7:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken. 7:28, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Coming up in the next segment, I'm going to try to get a lot accomplished in a little amount of time. We're going to talk about Chinese lab leak theories. That, of course, in the news. Chinese lab leak theories. That is in the news. And what happens when a pastor, in the middle of his sermon, realizes that there's 4 guys with guns that just walked into his church. That story for you as well. Very busy segment ahead. It is 7:29 on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. The Super Text line is open, 615-737-9986. Super Talk TV as well. You can find us on YouTube and Twitch, Facebook Live, Twitter, and at 997WTN.com. If you need new windows, you've got to call my friends at Window Nation. They've got a great deal going on right now. You pay 0 down, make 0 payments, and get 0% financing for 24 months. That is 2 years, no interest. Plus, you can get 2 free windows with every 2 that you buy with no limit at Window Nation. You take advantage of Window Nation's deep discounts, all the while reinvesting in your biggest asset. Not to mention, of course, the energy savings for years to come. So call them today at 866-90-NATION, 866-90-NATION for Window Nation. WindowNation.com. You can save up to 30% on your heating bills and increase the value of your home by up to $12,000 with new windows from Window Nation. So call them today, pay nothing for 24 months, plus buy 2 windows and get 2 free on any style window from Window Nation. There is no limit. You save thousands on your new windows and your energy bills, all the while upgrading the look and feel of your home. 866-90-NATION. Tell them Dan Mandis told you to reach out, windownation.com.
$7:30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. That's a lot of sunshine out there. It's going to warm us up nicely. Just like yesterday, but without the wind. And then we'll tell you about the changes to come during the full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. Tennessee Congressman Mark Green chairs his first House Homeland Security Committee hearing today, the focus on illegal immigration.
The goal today is to show essentially that every American is at risk with this open border.
Congressman Green tells WTN's Nashville's Morning News the committee just got back from a trip to the southern border with the largest contingent of freshman congressmen ever in this committee. He says they witnessed the seizure of 70 pounds of fentanyl. Afghanistan collapse, a new investigation into how easy it was for the Taliban to take back Afghanistan, even though the U.S. military spent almost 20 years there.
Nobody wanted to die for Ghani. That's what Afghanistan's former interior minister said about his former president in a special inspector general for Afghanistan reconstruction report that analyzed the collapse of the Afghan government. The report put blame on a variety of parties on both sides, including the Pentagon, saying there was a lack of accountability for the weapons it provided. The report said American troops left more than $7 billion worth of equipment in Afghanistan when they withdrew in 2021.
Right now in Nashville, Metro Nashville Public Schools considering installing a system whereby security cameras can detect guns and then immediately trigger lockdowns and call police. Metro School Board votes tonight on this $1 million system. A federal civil rights lawsuit's been filed by the only female officer to be fired in the Laverne Police Department sex scandal. The lawsuit filed Monday alleges Megan Hall was a victim of sexual harassment while being groomed for sexual exploitation. And since the matter's gone worldwide, she's been publicly ridiculed and can't find another job. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Thank you, Ken. 7:32 on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. The housing market is nuts right now. You need to keep maintaining your home. And my friends at Rhino Shield, they can help you. Curb appeal really is a thing, and an exterior paint job can help you. Give Rhino Shield of Nashville a call, and don't worry about your exterior paint for 25 years, if not more. Now, your house is going to look amazing and fresh for years to come, and you can save time and money in the process. Now, Rhino Shield can be used on virtually any surface, and it is guaranteed to last and will increase the value of your home. It's going to lower your energy costs as well, protect your home from the elements, and yes, it is green friendly as well. This is why so many Middle Tennesseans turn to Rhino Shield. So give Clay Morse a call. He is the owner of Rhino Shield. Good guy at that. 615-474-1729. 615-474-1729. You mentioned my name. He is going to get you a free estimate right away. Rhino Shield of Nashville can service all of your residential, commercial, and industrial needs, and customer satisfaction is their #1 priority. You can find them online. It's rhinoshieldnashville.com, 615-474-1729.
Hey everybody, I'm Paul Winkler. The financial world can be full of landmines for investors. On the one hand, investment firms and the financial community will often overcomplicate the financial planning process to confuse investors. As one guy who used to work a big investment firm once told me, if an investor thinks that they're over their head, they'll blindly trust you. And it's easier to sell to them. I'm glad I'm away from that. On the other hand, many people oversimplify investing to the detriment of investors. Just having a little knowledge can be really dangerous. The idea there is the same. It's just a different way of selling things. At Paul Winkler Inc., we like working alongside our clients with an education guidance approach. I believe that there's confidence that comes with knowing what you're doing and why. We abide by the very highest level of fiduciary care, and we use the most sophisticated financial planning tools out there. And every one of our offices is run by a degreed planner with over 20 years experience. No kids fresh out of college. If that sounds like a winning formula, set up a free 15-minute phone call to learn more. Go to paulwinkler.com or call 615-851-1950. You can do this.
7:38, Nashville's morning news on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. How are you, friends? It's only Tuesday, right? Feels like I wish it was Friday, but that's okay. Super text line is open, 615-737-9986, 615-737-WWTN. The Chinese lab leak theories. Big story out there today. Now, we told you yesterday about how the Department of Energy believes that, and by the way, they say with low confidence, I did tell you about that yesterday too, with low confidence, that COVID escaped from that Wuhan lab. Now, Republicans, I was certainly one of them, reacted because we do feel somewhat vindicated because we've been saying this for 2 years. And now Biden's own Department of Energy comes out and says, yeah, that might be true, what these crazy conspiracy, riddled Republicans have been saying about the lab leak theory out of China. Now, Democrats, by and large, when this story came out, Democrats, by and large, didn't really have much to say. Media reported it, but, per their usual mode of operation, they didn't really mention their own culpability in admitting that they were wrong to cancel and mock those people who knew the truth years ago. I mean, remember what I like to say about conspiracy theorists, right? Conspiracy theorists, they're the ones that see the truth before anyone else, certainly the media. And so China, of course, had their own reaction to the story regarding the Department of Energy saying that, the thing could have escaped from that Wuhan lab. And China's really angry that this is now making the news in America. Peter Ducey from Fox News, he read their statement.
Certain parties should stop rehashing the lab leak narrative, stop smearing China, and stop politicizing origins tracing. On Capitol Hill, House Republicans say they see this Energy Department conclusion, even though it is billed as one of low confidence, as confirmation of long-held beliefs, including Republican Congressman Michael McCaul, who says now is the time for the entire Biden administration to join the Department of Energy, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and the majority of Americans by publicly concluding what common sense told us at the start. The COVID-19 pandemic originated from a lab leak in Wuhan, China.
I mean, duh. I mean, it does feel like everyone in America, certainly people that I know, even the Democrats, assume that this thing came from that lab in China. And here's the thing. They look really guilty. Why does China look guilty? Well, because they have zero interest in allowing access to the World Health Organization, because the World Health Organization, as you know, if you've been listening to me, they've been trying to figure out and investigate this lab for the last 3 years. And China simply won't allow access. They won't allow access to documents. They won't allow access to the personnel. And they certainly won't allow the World Health Organization to investigate the lab itself. When I get frustrated, my voice goes up about 4 octaves. Did you just hear that? That tells you how irritated I am with China. I'm just saying. I hate when that happens. So I've got to just go ahead and say it with everybody else. Oh, there goes his voice again. When Mandis is pissed, his voice goes up like Minnie Mouse. Damn Chinese.
I'm not putting up with it anymore.
Stupid World Health Organization. Let's move on.
Very well.
Very well.
Very well.
Corinne Jean-Pierre, actually, she was asked about this whole thing about China and their response, and what is the Biden administration's response to all of this. Her comment also, by the way, is really infuriating. Listen.
Are there any plans for the administration to release an unclassified version of the Energy Department's COVID origin report? And if not, why is the administration choosing to keep that assessment classified?
So again, I'm going to just repeat my National Security Council colleague who said that he don't want to get ahead of or don't want to confirm a story, so I'm certainly not going to answer that from here. What I can tell you and reiterate from here, as he has said, as the National Security Advisor has said many times on the airwaves yesterday, which is that the president wants to get to the bottom of this because he thinks it's incredibly important to figure out, to get a sense where COVID-19 originated from.
That is such BS. Can I just say,
get a sense?
To
get a sense?
Biden has had the Senate and the House of Representatives 2 years. And they didn't do diddly regarding trying to investigate China, investigating the World Health Organization for their not really investigating much regarding China.
We're just trying to get a sense of where it might have come from.
Just trying to get a sense. Could have been that wet market, Listen, China has always been hostile to even the idea that the coronavirus may have came from that Wuhan lab.
Remember, they were mass building hospitals 2 months before everybody started learning about this.
Remember the World Health Organization? They had one phase of their investigation completed, and they've just, in case you haven't heard the news, they just gave up on their second phase of the investigation because they can't get into the lab. They can't get any access. And so the World Health Organization gladly said, by the way, well, just screw it then. We're not going to bother with the rest of this investigation because there's no point because China won't give us access. But one of the things that I noticed in that story, and I mentioned this at the time, is that the World Health Organization was quietly putting phase 2 aside. And if I'm part of the World Health Organization and I'm President Biden, I'm going to draw as much attention as I possibly can to the fact that China was not cooperating. There would be nothing quiet about it. Got a lot more straight ahead. 7:45. Time to check the roads from the Paul Winkler Investment WTN Traffic Center. Thank you, Jack. It is 7:46. Today, sunny, a high of 75. Right now, 63 at Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Appreciate you listening. Just kind of going over the latest on the Chinese lab leak theory. It's not a theory to me. To me, it is absolute fact. Mark Thiessen, who is one of my favorite commentators on Fox News. He also, by the way, believe it or not, he is a conservative. Some people would say he's a little bit more moderate, whatever. He also writes for the Washington Post, but he's got a great theory on this whole lab leak. This is part of what he said on Fox News.
It's insane. I mean, most Americans looked at this news and said, "Well, duh, of course it came from a lab." Right. Every normal person in America has known for years that this came from a lab. I mean, think about this. The coincidences would be involved. It happened in Wuhan, which is the home of the Wuhan Institute of Virology that studies bad coronaviruses, but it didn't come from a lab. I mean, we know they were doing gain and function research. We know they were doing it at biosafety level 2 instead of biosafety level 4, which was with the spacesuits. We know that 3 people from the Wuhan lab got sick in November 2019 at the start of the pandemic and had to go to the hospital with COVID symptoms. But yeah, it didn't come from a lab.
Right. I mean, tell me where he's wrong. And part of what he said, and he brings up a great point, part of what he said was that the media did everything they could, as everyone here knows, to vilify the people who were saying that, this thing did come from a lab. They called this tinfoil hatters and the rest of that nonsense. And it was so incredibly frustrating because we knew the truth. And just like many other things, when the media finally comes around to our way of thinking, do they admit their mistakes? No. Here is a look back on some of the media's greatest hits when it comes to calling us conspiracy theorists as it relates to China and the lab leak theory.
Traditionally driven by science, not presidential politics. And the scientists aren't the only ones rankled today by Trump's effort at reputational repair. The New York Times also advances recent reporting on U.S. intelligence agencies, which we learned this week provided intel in the president's PDB as early as January about the lethal spread of COVID. Those same agencies now have been tapped with investigating one of Trump world's most favorite conspiracy theories. New York Times reports this, quote, senior Trump administration officials have pushed American spy agencies to hunt for evidence to support an unsubstantiated theory that a government lab in Wuhan, China was the origin of the coronavirus outbreak. That's according to current and former American officials.
I think part of this is Nicole Wallace from MSNBC. I think we all understand the dynamics that are at play here. Anything that Donald Trump said, anything that Donald Trump did, anything that his administration did, there was always a knee-jerk reaction to whatever action the Trump administration was, trying to make or say. Just because they were infused, as everyone knows, with Trump derangement syndrome. And so the more that they were infused with this, the more credibility they ultimately lose because, let's face it, whether it is the Chinese lab leak theory, the New York Post and the laptop from hell, the Mueller investigation, how many times, friends, how many times were we proven right?
The effort comes as President Trump escalates a campaign to blame China for the pandemic. Some intel analysts are concerned that the pressure from the administration officials will distort assessments about the virus and that they could be used as a political weapon.
Hey, kind of funny, MSNBC or BSNBC quoting the New York Times. I mean, you want to talk about a circle of disinformation.
In an intensifying battle with China over a disease that has infected more than 3 million people across the globe. The stories of Trump reaching deep into the government agencies charged with science.
Yeah, all right. So that is, again, Nicole Wallace from MSNBC. And again, I think that when you look at all of the stories that I just mentioned, it is no wonder that the American people no longer trust the mainstream media. 7:50 on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Well, let me tell you something. If you maintain your heating and air unit, it's going to last you for a long time. How do I know? Well, because I'm a Beehive member from my friends at Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. They do have the Beehive Club. Now, what that means that is they are able to maintain your HVAC unit. That means that it's going to last you for a long time. That also means that if my HVAC breaks down, I get front of the line service. Plus 10% off of all repairs, no overtime or holiday charges, 3 annual tune-ups a year, including plumbing and so much more. Now, they're always adding benefits to the Beehive Club, so you need to check their website for the absolute latest, busybeehvac.com, or you can just call them for more information. 615-775-7833. Tell them Dan Mandis told you to reach out. Save money and be a smart homeowner by maintaining your HVAC the right way, the Busy Bee way. You can find them online, busybeehvac.com, 615-775-7833.
Tennessee congressman presides over the first hearing on the southern border crisis. This of the new Congress. President Biden on the road and attacking Republicans who say they're just trying to save Social Security. New gun detection technology could be installed in Nashville schools as soon as next week. These stories and more at 8 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken. 7:57, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Okay, coming up in the next hour, I'm finally going to tell you about this preacher who had 4 gunmen walk into one of his sermons. What he did next will stun you, quite frankly, because I was stunned. It's a great story. So that story for you, as well as coming up, Governor Bill Lee was confronted, with an old high school photo of him in drag. Some people think this is a big story. I'm not entirely certain why, but we're going to talk about that as well straight ahead. And also, Ken, the latest on this Megan Hall. Is it Megan Hall? Is that what her name is?
Megan Hall, brother.
Megan Hall, the former Laverne police officer who was fired for, well, we all know why. And so now we're going to talk about this lawsuit that she is leveling against the Laverne Police Department. It is absolutely stunning, the accusations that she's making, knowing what we now know. It's all straight ahead. 7:57, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Eight o'clock on the dot this Tuesday morning. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Going to have a lot of sunshine. Going to warm up just like we did yesterday, only we're not going to have yesterday's wind. Full forecast and traffic coming up in 5 minutes. Tennessee 7th District Congressman Mark Green will chair his first Homeland Security Committee hearing today in the new Congress. The focus, southern border crisis and the American lives lost because of it.
We're going to have a mother from Michigan who lost 2 children to fentanyl overdose. She had a 19-year-old and a 20-year-old son that were at a party. Everybody in the hotel room took this drug they thought was something else, and it killed everyone in the room.
Congressman Green tells WTN's Nashville's Morning News the committee just got back from the southern border with the largest contingent of freshmen ever, if a freshman congressman in the committee ever. And he says they witnessed the seizure of 70 pounds of fentanyl. President Biden hits the road today. He's expected to put Republicans on defense.
He claims Republicans will target the Affordable Care Act, Medicare, and Medicaid in order to balance the federal budget. And President Biden says he and Democrats will stop them. Mr. Biden will deliver that warning in Virginia Beach, Virginia, even though Republicans haven't yet unveiled their budget plans. Some Republicans are still saying that they'll need to either eventually cut Social Security as well or raise the retirement age in order to get it.
Now, Republicans warn that money for Social Security will run out by 2034 unless there are changes to the funding mechanisms. And before they agree to raise the debt ceiling again, they're trying to negotiate a deal to cut spending, but Biden and Democrat leaders refuse to negotiate so far. Right now in Nashville, Metro Nashville Public Schools considering installing a system whereby security cameras can detect guns and immediately trigger lockdowns and call police. This would cost about $1 million. The Metro School Board votes tonight. A federal civil rights lawsuit has been filed in the Laverne Police Department sex scandal. The lawsuit filed Monday alleges Megan Hall, the only female cop fired over the matter, was a victim of sexual harassment while being groomed for sexual exploitation. And since the matter's gone worldwide, she's been publicly ridiculed. She can't find another job. And all eyes today on the nation's highest court as U.S. Supreme Court justices take up whether President Biden's student debt relief plan is legal.
The response is just amazing. In less than a month, almost 26 million Americans applied to have their loans forgiven. But then in November of last year, a federal appeals court struck this program down. Those judges, they agreed with 6 Republican-led states who had brought a lawsuit to block the plan, and they held that Congress never specifically authorized this president or any president to forgive that much debt.
As Terry Moran reporting. Market Numbers Report. Market Numbers brought to you by Beacon Capital Management. Online at beaconcm.com. Futures are up before the opening bell. Dow up 62, S&P 6, NASDAQ 11. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hey everybody, I'm Paul Winkler. The financial world can be full of landmines for investors. On the one hand, investment firms and the financial community will often overcomplicate the financial planning process to confuse investors. As one guy who used to work a big investment firm once told me, if an investor thinks that they're over their head, they'll blindly trust you. And it's easier to sell to them. I'm glad I'm away from that. On the other hand, many people oversimplify investing to the detriment of investors. Just having a little knowledge can be really dangerous. The idea there is the same. It's just a different way of selling things. At Paul Winkler Inc., we like working alongside our clients with an education guidance approach. I believe that there's confidence that comes with knowing what you're doing and why. We abide by the very highest level of fiduciary care, and we use the most sophisticated financial planning tools out there. And every one of our offices is run by a degreed planner with over 20 years experience. No kids fresh out of college. If that sounds like a winning formula, set up a free 15-minute phone call to learn more. Go to paulwinkler.com or call 615-851-1950. You can do this.
News with Dan Mandis.
And so, my fellow Americans,
We talk news. Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
807 Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Man, I got a lot to fit into in this last couple of segments. Very quickly, programming note. This is going to be a very special hour of talk radio later on this morning at 10:05. Michael Del Giorno, he's got John Irwin, the writer and director of the movie Jesus Revolution. And they're going to be talking about that movie. I know that's going to be a home run. So be sure and listen later this morning at 10:05. Michael Del Giorno begins at 9 here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. So there is a lot going on. Let me get right to it. So can you imagine you are a pastor and you've got a room full of parishioners and you are up in front and you're preaching to the people. And in walks not one, not two, not three, but 4 guys with guns. And they come in and they sit down in a pew. And so the preacher in question here, really interesting story. This actually happened in Ferguson, Missouri. And the St. Louis pastor, his name is Marquelo Futrell, and he was preaching, and he's in the middle of the sermon when his police instincts, because he used to be a police officer, his police instincts kicked in the middle of his sermon, and he walks right up to them and engaged with these 4 with guns as they came into his church.
Saw the church and decided to come. Talk to me. Well, let's praise God for them coming.
Did you hear what he did? He walked right up to him and he said, you guys just decide to, come into church? Is that what you decided to do?
Saw the church and decided to come. Talk to me. Well, let's praise God for them coming.
There you go.
I said, praise God that God sent them in here.
So these guys walk in, and this is, again, Ferguson, Missouri, and the pastor sees them with their guns. He doesn't panic. He engages with them. And before you know it, he's praying for them. You've got these 4 guys walk in. They sit down in the pews, and the pastor engages them in discussion and prayer, hoping, obviously, that it doesn't escalate into something horrible.
Don't you play with me. I still got a cop anointing, and I still know what's going on, and I still know what's about to happen. God's about to change the plot of the enemy. Lift your voice and shout unto God for what he's about to do.
Yeah. So he used to be a police officer, and his, sort of cop spidey senses went off, if you will. And he said, yeah, you know what? Don't play with me.
Don't you play with me. I still got a cop anointing, and I still know what's going on, and I still know what's about to happen. God's about to change the plot of the enemy. Lift your voice and shout unto God for what he's about to do.
I mean, it really is an amazing video. If you find me on Twitter, at Dan Mandis Show, I have gone ahead and posted a story about this from Fox News. And so what he did was he trained all of the pastor he trained all of the church's cameras on these guys. And then before you know it, they're surrounded, these 4 young men, they're surrounded by these men in this church. And these guys are not only watching them, but they're also praying with them and for them. Listen.
Will you guys permit me to pray for y'all? Can I pray for y'all? They said I can pray for them. Come on, brothers, pray for them. Pray under the unction of the Holy Ghost.
Yeah, and so, of course, he starts praying for them. And the guys with the guns, after that, they just got up and left. And so the question is, did this Marquelo Futrell, this pastor, did he save the lives of all those parishioners because you have these 4 guys that are walking in with guns? And he did the smartest thing you can do in that, in that position, perhaps. He engaged them in prayer. Because what else could he do?
And we're thankful that For whatever reason, the Lord let y'all come here. I just believe that you all will never be the same again. Come on, if you believe they'll never be the same again, clap your hands and give God praise.
And out they walked. Out they walked. Now, there was something striking about, and I want you to go and I want you to look at the video. It's a Fox News video, and I want you to look at the photographs, look at the pictures. Laura Ingraham had this pastor on yesterday. There's something striking about these 4 young men surrounded by these church elders, lifting them up in the power of prayer, but also standing watch. And then, again, the 4 with the guns simply left. But it made me wonder if this is the first time in the lives of these young men as they walk into this church with guns, perhaps with the intent on robbing and maiming and killing. We really don't know. But was this the first time that they had ever really had any sort of godly interaction? And also, was it the first time that they had authoritative men in their lives? Godly and authoritative men. The 4 that walked in with the guns, they were surrounded by older, God-fearing men. Now, you know what I always say about fatherless households in this country and how much crime could be averted, how many lives could be saved if we had more godly and authoritative men in the lives of these troubled youngsters. I've said that time and time again. So that's part of what was so striking about this video is you had these guys surrounded by the elders. And it clearly, at least it seemed to me, it clearly made a difference. It's like that one photo is representative, so representative of how to stop crime before it happens. Good authority figures, godly authority figures for these troubled young men. Now, the pastor himself was on Fox News and Laura Ingraham last night. This is part of what he had to say about the guys that walked in with their guns.
They came into church. We believe that they were up to no good. I just had that instinct, and I just started maneuvering while trying to conduct service to keep the people calm. And eventually we found out later that one of those guys actually dropped his gun on the ground before I approached them to even pray for them. And that's when the police was alerted. And then we found out later that they were wanted in connection with 2 robberies for convenience stores.
So there you go. So it sounds like this preacher may have saved some lives and certainly prevented a robbery of his church, perhaps. And so you can find the story. You can find me on Twitter at Dan Mandis Show. And that story comes from Fox News and Laura Ingraham last night. Just a great, great story. 8:15, time to check the roads from the Paul Winkler Investment WTN Traffic Center. Thank you very much. 8:15 on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Thank you very much for listening to Nashville's Morning News. And today, your weather, sunny and a high of 75. And again, appreciate you listening to Super Talk 99.7 and WTN. And again, Nashville's Morning News. Megan Hall. So, Ken, you're going to have to help me here. Apparently now she is bringing a lawsuit against the Laverne Police Department. For you folks that don't know, Megan Hall is the police officer, a former cop, who was fired after that whole situation where we found out that she was, having these sexual experiences, there's no other way to say it, with all of these various police officers. I think there were there were 4 or 5 officers that she had had these sexual encounters with. And so she got fired, and a number of other police officers were fired as well. And so now apparently she is suing the Laverne Police Department. And I find it fascinating because here you have her saying that she was groomed. And you listen to this story and you think, how in the world can you sit here and say that you were groomed and that you were, part of some scheme to make her into some sort of a sexual victim here when she was the one that was going after some of these police officers? And so the more that you listen, the more you see and the more you read about this story, the more you think, okay, so she's trying to portray herself as a victim when it just, at least to me, it doesn't seem like she's a victim at all. I mean, she pursued some of these men. And so the more that you read this lawsuit, the more you think, okay, so she's having a hard time finding another job. And so the more that she looks for another job and the more she realizes that she may perhaps not be able to find another job, the more difficult it is going to be for her. So, of course, what is she doing? She's pulling this lawsuit business. I think it's rather silly. We've got a lot more on this story straight ahead on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I think personally, my own opinion is it sounds like she is trying to make herself into or portray herself as a victim so that she can get some quick cash. Maybe that's not the case, but at least that's what it seems like to me. The Super Text line is open, 615-737-9986, 615-737-WWTN. Got a lot more straight ahead on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. 823 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I'm going to tell you about my friends at King Insurance. Friends, if you need insurance or you've already got insurance but you need to lower those rates, call the people who I would call King and Associates Insurance. Now, you know they've been helping folks out for 25 years and still going strong because they treat people right. That is why they are successful. Now, at King Insurance, they give you the independent agent advantage. They're going to weed out the non-competitive companies to give you the absolute best price possible. Now, if you're new to Middle Tennessee and you need a new auto or home insurance agency, King & Associates Insurance, they can help you today. You've got to call them and tell them Dan Mandis told you to reach out at 615-329-8121. tkinginsurance.com if you've got a high-value home. King & Associates Insurance can save you money like they've done for many WTN listeners who have made the switch to King & Associates after realizing they were overpaying for their home and auto insurance. A multi-policy discount, by the way, can get you huge savings up to 35%. So call them today, 615-329-8121, tkinginsurance.com, 615-329-8121.
Well, you've got students and protesters gathered outside the Supreme Court today where they say it's going to be racist if President Biden's loan forgiveness program is rejected. We'll tell you about it at 8:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thanks, Ken. 825, Nashville's Morning News on WTN. So the headline from Channel 5 is this: looked at like a piece of meat. Laverne female officer files suit claiming sexual harassment and misconduct, talking about Megan Hall. And they do mention the fact that she has been the target of nationwide memes and ridicule. Her lawyer said what happened was inexcusable and called the situation a hostile, sexually charged work environment. And all these older male police officers preying on a rookie female officer. Now, what's interesting, though, if you read the story, I mean, she, again, as I said in the previous segment, she was the aggressor. She was actually trying, and the reason I'm bringing this up is because I'm calling BS on this. Because according to the report, she was trying to, engage these officers in sexual situations, and even saying that she and her husband were involved in an open marriage. And so for me, when I see that she is filing a lawsuit, well, I understand why she's doing it. But it just seems to me like it's a fool's errand because, at least according to the report, she was, one, a grown adult, and number two, she knew exactly what she was doing. It seems to me she wasn't groomed for this. She was part of the problem there within the Laverne Police Department. The article continues on that this whole situation has taken Megan Hall's dreams, dashed it against the rock. She's been publicly humiliated in a way that we haven't seen since Monica Lewinsky, says civil rights attorney Wesley Clark. Hall and her attorney, Megan Hall and her attorney, today filed a lawsuit in federal court naming the city of Laverne, Tennessee, former Sergeant Lewis Powell, former Sergeant Henry McGowan, and former Police Chief Burrell Chip Davis in the lawsuit. The lawsuit alleges that the supervisors groomed Hall for sexual exploitation. Now, in fairness, we don't know what happened. But all we know is what the report shows and what the news story shows. And it shows that these were just a bunch of adults that were engaging in adult behavior. And now here she is filing a lawsuit saying that she was groomed when in reality, she was an adult and is an adult. And so to me, this is all part of what we like to do in this country. Well, not me, but what this country does, which is put people who are victims on pedestals. It seems to me she's not a victim. She was part of the problem of the Laverne Police Department. And so we'll have to see where this story goes. I would love to get her on. I don't think she'd ever come on, this show, but I would love to get her on just to see what she has to say about all this and see if she would agree that she was an adult when this whole thing happened. And as such, she is responsible for her own actions. But there is no doubt that she did become a meme. She did become someone who nationwide people are making jokes about. And unfortunately, this kind of behavior sadly has its consequences. 8:28 on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Dan Mandis here talking about my friends at the Glock store where I get my firearms training, and so should you. Now, today is the last day of February, and so that means that you've only got today to take advantage of their February special at the Glock store. So what you've been able to do, and again, today is the last day, you and your significant other can train with your paid range session. Your significant other will be able to train for free with your paid range session. But that's not all. If your significant other is also thinking about a handgun of their own, all couple sessions also come with free handgun rentals to help them choose the perfect one. So during your session, you can try out as many of their huge variety of handguns they have available, by the way, with or without optics, as you would like. So a great deal from the Glock store in Nashville. So call them today. This is your last day to participate in the February special. Your significant other trains with you for free with your paid range session. 615-680-6565. 615-680-6565. Glockstore.com.
8:30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. That sun's warming us up nicely. We're going to hit the mid-70s just like yesterday today, but we're not going to have the wind with it. Full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. Students and protesters outside the Supreme Court today where justices are taking up whether President Biden's student loan forgiveness program is legal. This is 22-year-old Michigan University grad student Makisha Wells, who claims to have more than $60,000 worth of debt.
It's an issue with our system, and it perpetuates things such as racism and food insecurity. And so it's really important for all of us to bond together to kind of fight for this relief that we deserve.
Tennessee 7th District Congressman Mark Green chairs his first Homeland Security Committee hearing today, telling WTN's Nashville's Morning News it's important to raise awareness of what he says is the Biden administration's refusal to secure the southern border. Specifically, U.S. Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas.
And no American is safe from this. We're all paying the price of Mayorkas's, open border. And so we're going to make that point today, and every American is at risk here.
Right now in Nashville, the school board will vote tonight on a new way to protect students and staff. It's technology whereby security cameras immediately detect a gun and then initiates lockdowns and calls police. The software from Omnalert would cost $1 million. And Laverne police sex scandal update. The only female officer fired over it has filed a civil rights lawsuit. It claims Megan Hall was a victim of sexual harassment while being groomed for sexual exploitation. Market Numbers Report brought to you by Beacon Capital Management, beaconcm.com. We are 2 minutes into the trading day, and right now the Dow is off 83. S&P down 6, NASDAQ is down 14. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Want to tell you about my friends at the Wellness Institute of Nashville? Listen, they can help you with your chronic back and neck pain. And right now, a great deal for 2023. You get half off all non-surgical spinal decompression treatments when you mention my name. That phone number is 615-246-5009. Those spinal decompression machines are the key to relieving your chronic back and neck pain. So call them today at 615-246-5009, 615-246-5009. Your first consult is $23, and then your customized healing recovery plan is going to be discounted by 50% when you mention my name, 615-246-5009, painisbad.com. $8:37, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Time for the Gang of Three Amigos. I'm Dan. Johnny's there. Ken's over yonder. Morning, gents.
Good morning, boys.
Good morning.
Yes.
So Johnny, you've had the unfortunate experience of seeing Bryan Cranston, of course, the guy who was in Breaking Bad.
Yes.
And he's known to be very liberal, and he had a few very liberal things to say about what's going on in the world today.
Well, yeah, he was on 60 Minutes, and I don't know if anybody caught it or not, but while he was on there, he said that Trump's slogan of Make America Great Again has racist overtones. He claimed that, he said, you just have to ask yourself from an African-American experience, when was it ever great in America for the African-American?
Well, what's so silly about that? Because I saw this, John, and I'm glad that you brought it up. Because who is Bryan Cranston to speak for all African Americans?
Celebrities, Dan, it's their mission.
Well, and also you got to remember that starting a long time ago, they began to get celebrities involved in causes. You have to have a cause, and I think that's what this is. Probably somebody, an agent or something. Bryan, you have to get involved. You have to get a cause. It'll keep your name out there, and it'll help your image. And
yeah,
that kind of thing.
But see, this is the
on.
wrong thing. When you want to find a cause, memo to Bryan Cranston and other folks like him is that if you want a cause that is going to help your brand, find something not as dumb as like critical race theory and all that kind of stuff. Because for me, if I'm thinking about a brand or a charity or something I want to partner with, find something to help kids.
Yeah, that or, save the raccoon from being...
Save the raccoons.
But yeah, he's also saying that it's imperative that critical race theory be taught in schools. And I honestly think Bryan Cranston doesn't even know the extent of what's being taught. I don't think he's gone into the weeds about it.
No, I don't think that, one, you'll have people that say, well, critical race theory is not being taught in school. Well, do they have critical race theory 101? No. but do they have classes with, some of the lessons within critical race theory? Absolutely.
Well, I've been shown it. I mean, I've had parents send me books that the kids are reading, and yeah, it's there.
Well, not only is it there, but when he says that the actual slogan of "Make America Great Again" is racist. First of all, I feel like 2016 called, and it wants its topic back. That's number one.
Yes.
But number two is I love how these celebrities, they like to feel like they speak for everyone. And I got to tell you, there are millions and millions of black people who actually believe that "Make America Great Again" is a great slogan. And for millions and millions of black folks, America is great. So for him to just sit here and blanketly say, well, "Make America Great Again" is a racist theme or slogan or whatever it is.
Excludes black people is basically what he's saying.
Yeah, it's simply not true.
No.
Not for some black people, white people too. They might not agree with the sentiment that America was ever great, but I don't think that is defined by someone's race or by the color of their skin. There's a lot of white folks out there who believe that America isn't great as well. So, and I believe that they're wrong, and I believe that's a dumb way to think, but, it has nothing to do with racism. But I think that part of what people like Bryan Cranston like to do is they just like to do whatever they can to cause more divide in America. And for the life of me, I don't know how they think that this is something that is good for the image of Breaking Bad or Bryan Cranston to effectively, what's the right word? To distance themselves from roughly half of America. Alienate. They're alienating themselves from roughly half of America.
Exactly.
Because roughly half of America agrees that we need to make America great again, and roughly half of America is conservative.
He's made his money.
He has made his money
off his nose.
No, it's not.
But see, here's the thing, though. That'll always be in the back of my mind that Bryan Cranston is a dumb A, but I still love his acting.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, I feel that way about a lot. In fact, right now, because my wife has been binge watching Suits, I've never watched the program, and I started watching it with her, and I noticed, I went, that girl looks familiar. Oh, that's Meghan of, Prince
Meghan Markle?
Meghan Markle.
Oh, okay.
And I'm shocked, and it makes me almost sad because really she's not a bad actress. She's very good, and she's quite attractive in the show. But I'm sitting there watching her, and I'm thinking, you just blew a great career. Just to be.
I have heard such great things about Suits, and I will admit to watching some segments or not full episodes, but just some scenes on YouTube. That looks like a really good show.
It is. It's not a bad show, and but I was watching it with her yesterday, and one of the characters in it, male attorney, because the female was telling him, "You don't respect women." He goes, "Oh, yes, I do." And he named off his mother, grandmother, Hillary Clinton.
Oh, Lord.
Yes. And I said, boy, you blew it there with me.
But see, here's the thing, though, is that's the big difference between Republicans and conservatives.
Or Hollywood and Middle America.
I can sit here and I can say, boy, I vehemently disagree with Bryan Cranston. But on the other hand, I'll say he's a great actor and I would watch him in stuff.
Right.
Because conservatives, we're all about free speech, right? So we're all about free speech. We're all about a freedom of expression and ideas and debate. We're not into cancel culture. And that is, I think, one of the big differences between Republicans and Democrats is this difference in freedoms and freedoms of expression. I mean, look what happened to Scott Adams. We were talking about this yesterday. The guy that, is the author of and creator of the Dilbert cartoons. He said something, which, by the way, I thought that it was kind of silly what he said, but, whatever. But his career is over for his comments. And basically, for Republicans or conservatives, unfortunately, it's just part of what we have to go through on a daily basis is watching what we say, theoretically, watching what we say because we can be canceled at any time.
Oh, exactly. And you may as well get ready because they're going to do the same with James Bond. They're going to go, what I understand, they're going to go back into the books of James Bond, take out anything that is racially sensitive, take out parts that are to them, to the cancel culture that is, hurting them.
My question would be to that, Johnny B and Ken, is so when you go back and you take out all the racially insensitive stuff, well, what is racially insensitive? Like, according to who?
Yeah.
Because these days, everything is racially sensitive.
Exactly.
So I wonder if they're going to, how does that manipulate or change the plots at all? I mean, that would be one of the things that I would ask. But why do they have to just go back and do this? This is something that I think we are going to have to be dealing with for every piece of work that's out there now.
Oh, exactly. And they're going to go through and say that he was sexist and treated women like objects.
James Bond. Yeah.
Yes. That's coming, if it hasn't already.
The James Bond movies, though, was James Bond, would you consider him sexist? I think he was definitely a player.
Well, he was a ladies' man.
Or playa.
He was a playa.
He was
That's
a playa.
right, with the A. He's the playa.
He's a playa.
But see, that's not being a misogynist. That's just being a ladies' man.
Well, yeah.
I mean, it's just that's the problem with some of these folks that say, well, this person's a misogynist and that person's a misogynist. Just because a guy is popular with the ladies doesn't mean that he's a misogynist.
No.
It just means that he's popular with the ladies. And by the way, you're not popular with the ladies unless there's some sort of reciprocal attention, if you know what I mean.
Well, look at the rap groups.
Oh, my Lord.
They have girls galore.
Yeah.
It is stunning.
And they're not really treating them with respect in some of the lyrics.
Oh, Lord. Look at those videos. You guys ever... What was the video I watched? Johnny, you were there. What was the video? I was horrified at a video I saw, and it was a rap video. And clearly, I'm not one to watch those rap videos. And when I watched this one particular video,
Couldn't look away, could you, Brother Dan?
You know what? It was like watching a car accident in real time.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Oh, I wish I could remember what that video was. Super Texters, do you remember what video that was that I watched? Amy might know if she's listening. Because I went on, this is what it's like to live with me. I went on like a half-hour monologue on this particular rap video.
While you kept rewinding it?
You know what? I didn't rewind it because the images were seared into my brain.
Yeah.
I'm doing this for show prep.
I can't. Oh gosh, I wish I could remember what that video was. But it was a video. It was a rap video, and you've got these women they're in thongs and they're shaking their behind and
a little twerking going on.
Oh, there's twerk. That's what it was. It was twerking.
Kind of like whenever they load up on these pedal taverns over here.
Yes.
Yeah, it wasn't WAP. It wasn't that. You guys know what WAP is?
That song is filthy, man.
Yes, that is filthy. Absolutely.
But there's a lot of filthy songs out there. But
yes, there is.
That song right there, man.
So, yeah, I mean, but see, that shows the ridiculousness of what we're talking about, where they'll go after, someone like James Bond for being a ladies' man, yet nobody has anything to say about these rap videos and so forth. It makes absolutely no sense whatsoever, but that's all part of, the absurdity of life in America today. It is going to bug me what the heck that video was.
Who was the artist?
And I guarantee, who was the artist? I don't know.
Well, rap some of it. Lay it on us, brother.
The only thing I remember, wait, let me look at my phone, see if Amy remembers. She's probably not listening.
All right.
She gets enough of me at home.
Was it new rap or was it old rap? Was it old school rap?
It was old rap.
Was it Snoop Dogg? Was it Dr. Dre?
Thong song. Amy says,
song.
Back that ASS up.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. I remember that song.
All right.
Yeah, back that A up. Yeah, I remember that.
Back that butt up.
Yeah, you fine looking man.
Yeah. Oh, okay. There you go. Anyway,
That's
whatever.
Cisco. From the album Unleash the Dragon.
Well,
they were unleashing something.
Yeah. They were unleashing the dragon, all right.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, there you go. So, yeah, I personally, I find the whole thing revolting. And, when you talk about watching a video like that and realizing how those videos treat women and look at women and how they objectify women. But by all means, let's go after 007. Makes no sense in the world.
None
but you
at
know
all.
what? Here's the thing. By my own metric, you can't go after 007 if you're also not going to go after those rap videos. But just like in 007, where you have women who they portrayed the women in those movies and they were, hired to act in those movies and show that, they were interested in James Bond 007. Well, the women in these rap videos, nobody's forcing them to do that either.
Well, in a lot of the Bond movies, those women were out to kill Bond. They were using their feminine wiles to trick him into a trap.
That's right.
You got to check out the video Rump Shaker.
Oh, yeah, I remember that one.
That's by Rex in Effect.
I think Ken has found
All I want
what
to
he's...
do is zoom.
Ken's hoping it's a slow news day for the
just
next...
shake your rump.
Ken's hoping for a slow news day so he can just be preoccupied for the next several hours. 8:52 on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. By the way, coming up, Michael Del Giorno, and he has a very, very special guest later this morning at 10:05. Michael has John Irwin on, the writer and director of the movie Jesus Revolution. That is at 10:05. Michael is up after the news at 9 here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Dan Mandis want to tell you about my friends at Window Nation. They have a great deal for you right now. You pay zero down, make zero payments, and get 0% financing for 24 months. That is 2 years, no interest, plus get 2 free windows with every